You need your finances, you need your time, you need the support of your spouse if you're married. You need to read, you need to put all the resources together for you to be able to make it to this other side where we are today. And I want to encourage us as much as possible for those of us who have registered and who need your finances, you need your time, you need the support of your spouse if you're married. You need to read, you need to put all the resources together for you to be able to make it to this other side where we are today. And I want to encourage us as much as possible for those of us who have registered and who need your finances, you need your time, you need the support of your spouse if you're married. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Because I was now hearing myself. Okay, anyway, so like I was saying, we need to put in everything to make it a success. You need to talk to people, you need to connect with people for information, and that is what we're doing here today. Bringing people together, to your comfort, to the comfort of your home. It's not easy. Everyone you're seeing here today participating for your own joy, for your own happiness, all started the same way you're starting today. So I believe there is nothing that you cannot achieve if you put your mind, soul, and everything into it. The people, facilitating today started, just like I said, I'm reiterating it again. They started from the scratch. They had no knowledge about Canada, but each and every one of us, we did our personal studies, we come together, we share views, we share ideas, and that is what you see runs on the group. So I will encourage us, let us listen and listen very good. If you have any questions, you put them on the questions on the chat room. We're going to answer you. Everything has been planned smoothly. Just listen. Whatever it is at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to come to Canada, and we are here to support you. We're not God, but we know that with what we have, and if you listen to us, you'll be able to achieve something. The platform has been running for over 10 years, since 2010. So everybody you see here today, they are partners. No one is being paid. The platform is free. If anybody tells you you need to pay certain amounts to join this group, please tell them IG said no. We are not a money-orientated group. This is free for everyone. So but what you need to do, as much as it is free, you also need to do your part. You need to research. Because being in Canada, it's not easy. We struggle with a lot of things, we juggle with a lot of things, and we still come back to the group, to help. So you need to also have personal time to study, to grab information, to learn information, to share information, not just receiving. You must be able to share information. So I want to congratulate us for being here today. And I want to say, this is usually an 8-hour, training seminar, face-to-face or one-on-one or in person. But now we have to cram it up to 4 hours. And I know it's not easy. So you need to listen attentively to be able to grab most information as you need it. So I want to once again welcome this seminar today in the name of the Father, Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And I pray that at the end of this seminar, you're blessed, you receive, you'll be able to use what you receive, turn it around into your, permanent residency in the mighty name of Jesus. Once again, enjoy the meeting, have fun, and be good. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my IG, for that warm welcome. So I want to assure everyone that today you're going to have a great time. You're going to learn, and the information that you require to equip you for that this journey. Like she said, it's not an easy journey, but it's a possible journey. So very quickly, I would want us to meet the people that will be at the behind the microphone, behind the camera this morning. We are morning in Canada. I know it's afternoon in Nigeria. So I want to introduce us to the faculty. These are people that will be sharing from their personal experiences, and they will really help you to make this journey a better and smoother experience. So hang on and meet them. Okay, 1 second. We'll be there now. All right. So those are the people that will be hearing their voice for most of today. So without wasting time, we quickly move into the program for today. And the very first speaker that will be talking to us this morning will be talking about the general overview of the Canadian immigration journey. And that is none other but Pearl. That's Pelumi Oladapo. So for the next 20 minutes, you would hear his voice. Pelumi, over to you. I'll share your screen very soon. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
You
we
need
can
to
hear you.
unmute Pelumi, please.
Can you play the slide?
Okay.
He said he's on mute.
Can you unmute Pelumi and then play the slide?
Okay, let me look for him. Okay, Pearl, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay. Yeah, can now. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
you need to speak up a little more.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, just some volume from your end.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. So I'm yet to see the slide, but
It will come up now.
yeah.
Pelumi, you need to increase your volume a little bit.
Okay, 1 minute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, okay. Okay,
All right, your slide is coming up.
all right. Boom.
Your slide is up, Bellamy.
Yeah, I can see that now. Thank you. One minute. Okay, so good morning once again, everybody. My name is Belumi Oladakbo, and I'll be speaking on the general overview of the immigration process to Canada. Okay, can we get to the next slide, please? Okay, so the big question, do you want to come to Canada? I believe everybody on this Zoom meeting is definitely interested in coming to Canada. That's probably why we're all here today. So, and then that begs the answer, okay, how do you come to Canada? So next slide, please. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why we're actually coming, because coming to Canada could be in different ways. You could come in as a visitor, you could come in as a tourist, you could come in for probably a program and then go back. But why coming in as a permanent resident? So these are some of the reasons why, yeah, you coming in as a permanent resident is a very good thing. And here we have, you said you can vote or run for political office. Yeah. So basically, what we're saying here is coming to Canada as a permanent resident. It's as good as saying you're a citizen of the country itself, except the fact that you can't run for some political offices and then I think some high security jobs. Those are the two exceptions for permanent resident from a citizen. Every other thing, you can get certain level of jobs, yeah, except the high security clearance jobs. You can reside for, you have to reside for Canada for 2 years out of 5 years to renew your PR status, yeah, and then 3 years out of 5 years to apply for citizenship. If you can be deported if you committed and is convicted of any serious crime. Yeah, we'll discuss this in detail, I think, along the line in the slide. Okay, so basic summary about coming to Canada. After we've made the decision of, okay, yes, I want to come to Canada, you get all the prerequisite requirements like your IELTS, ECA. ECA is education credential assessment. That's all your certificates getting assessed. And then wherever you're working, gathering documents from there as well, reference letter, if required, pay slip, things like that, basically to show proof of the work. And then doing AOR, that's getting AOR, medical past, biometrics, ADR. All these things will be explained in details, like the definitions of all these terminologies, because I know this might probably look strange to some people who probably are just coming onto the process. And then landing successfully in Canada. Next slide, please. As explained earlier, some of the prerequisites, like the main things that has to be done even to start the process at all. Language test, that's where the IELTS comes in. So IELTS is not the only language test actually could be used for this process. There's CELPIP as well, but I'm not too sure if CELPIP is done in Nigeria, but I think they do it in some other parts of Africa, I believe, or probably it's Canada, yeah. But there's CELPIP, there's TEF. TEF is another language. That's for French speakers. So if someone is versatile in speaking both, maybe you could speak both language, English and French fluently. Yeah, that's actually going to give a bonus point, because for each language you could speak well or do well in the test, you get a point. So it's a points-based system. So, and language carries a lot of points. Then the ECA, Educational Credential Assessment. That's where we talk of all credentials you've amassed in all the schools you've gone to, your highest qualification, maybe it's a BSc, maybe you have 2 or more certificates, maybe a BSc with a diploma, or maybe you HND. HND2 is 2 or more certificate, because that's OND and HND. There are 2 certificates. Maybe you have a PhD. All this comes into play there. So for language tests, yeah, I've explained this already: CELPIP, TEF, and IELTS. And then the minimum required. So this minimum required score for language test is basically saying, for you to be able to enter the express entry pool, you must have this minimum score, which is 666 across all bands. This minimum score doesn't guarantee that you will have a good CRS score, which is actually how you get picked in the pool. So this is how it works. There's a pool that comprises of everybody applying to come to Canada. Now, in the pool, Canada is more of like the overseer overseeing the pool, and they'll be like, okay, we'll pick a set number of people from this pool. But for us to pick a set number of people from this pool and to do it in a justifiable way, we'll set a particular score, a benchmark score, for us to pick from this school, meaning everybody that has this particular score from this pool will be picked, except in the case of there's a term we use whereby I'd forgotten the particular term, but whereby the number of, how long you've been in the pool actually comes into play. I think there's a terminology used for it. Somebody else would talk about that later. I can't remember that particular term again.
Is it the tiebreaker?
Tiebreaker.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tie-breaking rule.
Yeah, the tie-breaking rule. Thank you very much for that. So there is a tie-breaking rule whereby if you enter the pool early enough, they set a particular date to cut off. So it's just all in the process of doing the process in a justifiable way, so everybody sees it's very transparent that, okay, I got into the pool this particular day, I have the same score with this person, but because they have a set number of people they want to pick for that particular draw, they set a date that, okay, if you are in the pool from 18th of March, let's say for instance the draw was done today, and they say, okay, if you've been in the pool from the 18th of March upwards, that means if you have this particular score and you've been in the pool from that date, you will be picked. Basically, that's the simple interpretation of it. And then, so what I'm saying in essence is this 666 is just the minimum score for anybody to enter the pool. If you have 6 in listening and 5.5 in speaking, and then 6 in the others, you can't use that score to enter the pool. That's what it's saying. You must have minimum of 6 across board to enter the pool at all. Next slide, please. Okay, so, and then this particular score being shown on the screen, 877, 8 in listening and 7 in the others, is more of like the minimum score to get picked from the pool. This score also doesn't guarantee that you will automatically be picked, because there are other factors into play. Age is there, highest qualification is there, but this particular score is saying all other things being equal, meaning if you have a good education, say for instance, you have a master's degree or you have 2 or more certificates, and your age is still below or still within the age limit they want, say for instance, you're still below 30, you have a master's or 2 or more certificate, and you have the minimum required 3 years work experience. With this score, your overall CRS would be above 470. So that's basically why we recommend this particular score, because with this, it takes your CRS score, like it takes it very high. And this other recommended score, which is actually the highest attainable band, gives the total maximum score for language. So that's why it's recommended. Then for test, for French test, yeah. So most Nigerians, French is going to be new, but you can try your hands on it and it will fetch you more points. So as of right now, I believe French gives a total of about 50 points. Initially it was 30 points. I think they increased it along the line again to about 50 points in total, if I'm correct. So this is not available in Nigeria, but if somebody is probably in another country or in Canada and trying to seek for PR application, SELPIP is also a good language test to take. Next slide, please. Okay, so this was the pool I was talking about initially, the Express Entry pool itself. So it's an online system where everybody applying to come to Canada through PRs gathers, and then the government of Canada picks from that pool to decide who gets invitation to apply. So invitation to apply is, we call it in a short form ITA, means the government of Canada is inviting the applicant to apply for permanent residence. So, but it's from this particular Express Entry pool people get picked from when they do the draw, when the government does the draw. So, and the Express Entry pool manages all these programs listed: the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Federal Skilled Trades Program, and then the Canadian Experience Class. Next slide, please. So for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, which is basically what majority would be doing, there is minimum eligibility criteria for each of those programs. For FSW, which is the shortened form for Federal Skilled Worker, your language ability has to be minimum of CLB7. CLB7 is the 666 we talked about earlier. Skilled work experience must be minimum of 1 year continuous. So it can't be 9 months here, 3 months there, or 6 months here, 6 months there. The 1 year has to be continuous. And basically, these are like the primary eligibility criteria. It doesn't mean that the applicants cannot have, say, for instance, 1 full year here, and then maybe 6 months there, 9 months in another place, making a total of like 3 jobs. In as much that 1 full year is complete first in the first place, that meets up with the criteria for minimum eligibility. And then part of the criteria too is having minimum of 30 hours work experience in a week in the job. Okay. Then for FSWA again, these are the 6 selection factors. Language skill, 28 points. So what this is saying here is this: for this 6 factor, for eligibility, there is it's a point, everything is point based. So for eligibility process, there's 100 points apportioned, meaning out of that 100, applicant is expected to have minimum of 67 to be eligible. This point is completely different from CRS. CRS is the points that get you picked by the government to apply. This is what actually makes you eligible to even be in the pool in the first instance, this eligibility factor. So there are 2 separate things which most times people used to confuse together. And the 2 has 2 separate requirements, though they work hand in hand sort of, but eligibility has to be calculated separately from CRS. So this is still talking about eligibility process, language for eligibility. Is someone wanting to talk? Okay. So language skills, like I said earlier, CLB 7 is a requirement and NCLC 7 for French. And if someone is versatile in both language, yeah, it also helps too, because it gives you additional points. If one is your primary language and then the other is a secondary language, you get extra points for both languages. Next slide, please. Okay, so like I said earlier, 50 additional points is added for French. And for the language, I think I explained earlier, you're being tested in 4 different areas: listening, writing, speaking, and reading. And for IELTS, each of those bands are over 9. So what they're saying in essence is this: for you to be eligible to enter the pool, you must have a minimum of 666 over 9 for you to be eligible to enter the pool. But for you to have a very high score, you must have a listening score of 8, because when you get to Canada, you have to be able to listen to what people say for you to be able to understand at all in the first instance. So listening is very key. Listening, you have to have a minimum of 8 over 9. It is not impossible. In fact, it is very easy to actually have. And then for the others, you have to have a minimum of 7 to have a good chance of actually getting picked from the pool. Now to the factor age. Age, for this, all these factors we're discussing still talks about eligibility process. Though, like I said before, it also works hand in hand with the CRS as well, because if you have a low age here that gives you a good point here, it also gives you a good point in CRS, like that. So for it, under 18 is 0 points, because Canada is not expecting that under 18 should be applying by themselves. They are deemed dependent. So if you're under 18, you can't even apply at all, even if you have every other thing working well for you. Then 18 to 35 has a maximum point of 12. And then from 35 upwards, it starts dropping. And that's why we always encourage people to work fast on this process, because the moment you cross, like I said before, this is only applicable to eligibility process. In fact, when it comes to CRS, the moment you cross 30, points start dropping. Like you start losing points for every age above 29. So from 30, you lose, I think, 5 points. 31, I think, is 6 points. Like that, continuously till you get to 45, I believe, or 46, yeah, where everything now goes to 0. Next slide, please. So for education, PhD gives the highest point, which I believe is 25, followed by master's 23. 2 or more certificates should be 22 points. All these points are for eligibility, not for CRS. I hope I'm not confusing anyone. So, and then BSc, I believe, should be 21, I think, yeah. So it goes on like that, diploma, then to high school certificate. I think high school is 18 or something. Then the next is work experience. For work experience, 1 year gives 9 points. The total point attainable is 15. 1 year gives 9 points. Then, just as it stated, 2 to 3 gives 11 points. But also balancing this is for eligibility, not for CRS. So for CRS, 2 years gives the same point as 1 year when it comes to CRS. 3 years gives the maximum point for CRS. So if you have 3 years, even if you have 4 years, you're still having the maximum point. It doesn't change the number of points you have. So for CRS, the moment you have 3 years work experience, every addition on top of 3 years is just an addition. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't add any more points. That's for CRS calculation. But for eligibility calculation, it does. So 6 years gives you the maximum points for eligibility. Next slide, please. Yeah, arranged employment for Canada. Like I always tell people, like usually see this as very impossible, but yeah, we've seen quite a number of people. Some people have actually done this and they've been successful with it. So you could, if you have the support and the link, could get someone to arrange. That doesn't mean we should go ahead and be plying and be patronizing most of these like scams online that says, yeah, I will get you 1 year. I mean, I will get you employment in Canada, because honestly, most of those things are scam. Yeah, but it's not impossible. That's what I'm trying to say. So you could get points for this if you have a link in
Pearl, I think we lost him.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, so Magabi, can you continue?
Okay, so looking at arranged employment in Canada, if you have a job in Canada, you can be given arranged job in Canada. That will increase your grid points, and that will give you extra 5 points. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so when you look at adaptability, it could be that you have a relative in Canada. So relative include direct relatives like your brothers or sisters, that sibling or half sibling or step siblings, your parents or your grandparents, cousins, family friends don't count as relative. If your partner's health results can also give you another 5 points. So if your partner writes health and you have at least CLB4, that will give you 5 points to increase your grid points. If you studied in Canada or your partner studied in Canada, that will also give you 5 points. So either of these will give you up to 10 points. Next slide. So this is a link for the CRS calculator. So you can use this link to calculate your CRS. You can also use that to calculate. You can also have a link to calculate for your CRS score. If you write health or you do TEF, whatever thing you do for language test, you've evaluated your credentials, and for some reason when you enter the pool, you can't get ITA. Now you have to go through the provinces. That is, you have to get nomination from the province. To be able to do this, there are 2 ways for you to do this. One of the ways to do this is for the province to contact you directly and give you expression of interest or notification of interest. That is to say, you didn't apply to them. They just came to the pool and picked you and asked you to apply to them to give you ITA. Another way could be you apply directly to the province when they make it, when they open up for you to apply to them. Next slide, please. Either of the 2 ways that you use, you need to create an express entry before this can happen. And if the provinces give you nomination, what's going to happen is that you will have 600 points to add to wherever your CRS score is, and then you get ITA to apply in the express entry pool as a permanent resident. Next slide, please. What do you have to do so provinces will send you invitation? The first thing you have to do for province to send you invitation is for you to get into the EE pool. Get yourself into the EE pool. That's the first thing that you need to do for the provinces to send you an invitation. There are some criteria there are some things that can make your application beautiful, make your application attract these provinces. One of them is your NOC. Your job description can make the provinces pick you in the pool. There was a time that Ontario picked IT personnel from the pool, even up to 200 and something, people that had 200 in their CRS score. There was a time that Nova Scotia picked the nurses in the pool. There was a time that Alberta picked people in the pool, and we noticed that majority of them were either admin assistants or IT personnel. So your NOC can, can be one of the criteria for the province to pick you or for you to apply for the province for them to take you. Another thing that can make the province take you is adaptability. That is, if you have family or friends in a particular province, like Manitoba, like Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan, what they do is they pick people from the pool who have relatives in those provinces, because by the time they give you points for having relatives, you are able to have more points than people who don't have relatives in that province. Another thing that can make the province pick you from the pool is your high CRS score. Ontario normally picks people from the pool that have very high CRS score. Sometimes it's your luck. You can just be lucky and they can just pick you from the pool. So those are some of the provinces that you can look out for when you're looking for nomination. Is the ones you are listed: the Essex, Nova Scotia, Manitoba, Prince Edward Island, Ontario, New Brunswick, then maybe Quebec and British Columbia. That depends. But in this, Quebec is not really PMP. It's like under the federal. And for British Columbia, you need to have a job offer. And then for Newfoundland, you just have to apply to them. I don't know. I'm not really sure what their criteria is. But you never can say you have nothing to lose. So you can actually go back there and, apply. Now, Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, which is popularly known as AIPP. AIPP is a program where employers in the Atlantic provinces, these Atlantic provinces include Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Labrador, and Prince Edward Island. Employers in this place are allowed to pick people, non-nationals, not foreign nationals, to come to these provinces to work for them, and they give them work permits. When you get this work permit and you come to Canada, you can now apply for PR after you work for them for a period of time. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so after the general overview of Canada immigration is you get your you get your prerequisite, which is the ITA, your prerequisite, which is the ELTS, the language test, you evaluate your credentials, and you must have worked for at least for 1 year. The next thing, you determine your eligibility and you get into the pool. When you get into the pool, it's either you get an ITA or you don't get an ITA, and then you seek for provincial nomination from provinces before you get the ITA. After that, the next thing you have to do is to apply to the through the EE pool, and then get some documents to upload as you fill your form. And some of those documentations that we are going to need is your POF. You're going to need your POF, your proof of fund. You're going to need the proof that you have evaluated your credentials, which is your ICA, medical and police reports, which is PCC. Now, we advise that people should do their medicals and their police reports as the last set of things you do before you submit your application. There are a lot of CIC forms that you fill online, depends on what you declared as you are filling your forms. You're going to have to put your academic certificate, your resume, your settlement plan, if it is necessary. Employment documents like your reference letter, your employment letter, your confirmation letter, as you deem fit. So in each of these forms, as you are filling the form, there's a place that you check the upload. There's a drop down. If you read the drop line, they'll tell you exactly what that you need to upload as you fill the form. You need to pay for the fees. If you are married, you should upload your marriage certificate. That could include your sworn affidavit from the court, your marriage certificate from the court, and newspaper publication. Anything to convince them that you are married can also be uploaded. But the end result of all this is for us to become permanent residents and then get the Canadian passport. All in all, the process is a tiring process. It requires that we have to be very patient and go through this process one after the other. But the truth is that the process is very, very doable. It's doable, it's easy, and it's something that you can do for yourself. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, just post them in the group chat and we see how we can answer them. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Magabi, for coming to our rescue there. You know, technology sometimes can disappoint, but that's why we always have backup. All right, so thank you so much for that. So very quickly, we will watch a short clip of one of a dependent. You know, by dependent, you mean it could be your child or anyone that depends on you that has landed here in Canada. So let's hear what she has to tell us, just to encourage us and to for those of you that have been you've not made up your mind, you are still considering whether to take this step or not to take this step. So maybe when you see this, it will motivate you. All right, coming up. Okay.
Hello everybody, my name is Evangeline and this is Nova Scotia in Canada, but it's freezing cold here. But not to worry, layers of clothes and a couple of jackets to keep you warm. If you want to come to Canada, Nova Scotia is a great place to be. Kids, if you want to come, Canada is free for you to come. It's a really fun place.
Okay, so that's it. All right, it's a really fun place for children to come. You know, here children is valued so much. You know, I remember when we just landed, you know, one day we were going to school, and when we get to the traffic crossing, traffic lights, you know, where pedestrian will cross, it's not main road, it's just a sidewalk, but there's an intersection there. There are people they call school guards, so they have to stop traffic and ensure that people, I mean, you don't cross when the light is red. But when I get there, there's no traffic, nothing is coming, no car, and I'm waiting. I'll just cross with the children. The school guard will look at me with one eye like this. One day she couldn't bear it anymore. She said I should stop endangering the life of their children. I said, okay, oh, it's no more my children, it's now your children, you know. So, you know, that's to tell you how much, you know, children are valued here. So very quickly, we're moving to the next presentation. And this is talking about the English test that Magabi mentioned and Pearl also mentioned in the general overview. And to do justice to this, I will be turning over the mic to Josh. So Josh will do justice to IELTS. Thank you. Over to you. Josh, you can present your material, right?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Prof. I'm just a little careful with that, your mention of justice. We know what justice means these days. So, okay, so good morning, everybody. I hope it's been insightful so far. I will spend the next few minutes talking about IELTS, but 15 minutes, even 30 minutes is not enough to prepare anyone for the test. So this is like a preamble. Can you see my screen yet? Can anyone hear me? Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Your screen is coming up, I believe. Yes, excellent.
Okay. So thank you. So like I said, we will not have enough time to do that kind of justice to IELTS. So whatever you can take away from this session, it will just be tips. It will just be a few things that can support the preparation, but 99.5% of it still rests squarely on whoever is still at the stage where they need to write IELTS. Except for maybe your proof of funds, this is one area where a lot of people find the most frustration and the most stress, the IELTS test. And I think that that's practically because everything else we have under control. Your age, there's pretty much nothing you can do about your age. Your educational level, your ECA, you're a graduate, you're a bachelor's degree holder, master's degree holder, whatever it is, that cannot change in a very short time. But for IELTS, you have it in your power to influence your scores and to influence what you can get. The criticality of the IELTS cannot be understated. And by the way, IELTS means International English Language Testing System. Before I continue, I'd like to leave a caveat, which I tell every single person that I've talked to about this process. If you underestimate the English language test, you go write them again. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
You go write them again and again.
Even up to 10 times.
I know people who have written 13 times. I know someone who has written 9 times. Well, thankfully, these 2 people I mentioned, they're in Canada right now. So if you underestimate the exam, you write it more than once. The exam, there are 2 types of exams, and generally this is just a test of your English language proficiency, especially for people that want to move to countries that require this test for study or to live and to work. The general training is what is required for IRIS, that's the Canadian immigration system. For people that are studying or planning to study, especially in places like maybe like UK or Australia, they require the academic training, but our focus is general training. The difference is very minimal, but the exams are different. So if you do academic training, you can't use it for immigration. The exam has a score band, and each area where you'll be tested, the testing areas are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Each area of testing, you can get anything between 1 and 9. So it's a 9-band scale between 1 and 9, 9 being the highest, with the highest level of proficiency, and 1 being the lowest. The bodies that administer the exam today, they are British Council and IDP. And British Council is, of course, that's British, and IDP is Australian. I think IDP started in Nigeria maybe 3-4 years now. I don't know. Sometime within the last 2 or 3 years, because when I did the IELTS test, IDP was not a thing at the time. So you can only take the exam through the British Council. Now, I know that Pelumi mentioned, I saw on his slides, and he talked about this a little bit, that the minimum scores you require to get into the pool are 6, 6, 6, 6 in all 4 areas. But the scores that make the most sense, the recommended scores are what you have in front of you right now. Listening 8, reading 7, writing 7, and speaking 7. If you get listening 7.5, like one of my colleagues back in Nigeria back then did, if you get 7.5 in listening and you don't get 8, you're throwing away almost 50 points. And of course, in this point-based system, every point matters. So if you get 7.5, yeah, you are leaving points on the table. In reading, if you get 6.5 instead of 7, you are losing a minimum of 30 points. What's the structure of the exam? The listening is, there are 4 areas in the listening test. One, you have a social conversation. The first part is social conversation between some people, just talking about anything but a social conversation. The second one is a social monologue. Someone is talking. Maybe it's a phone call. I can't remember exactly now, but the second one is a social monologue. The third one is academic conversation. You hear people talking about something relating to an academic work, a project, a research work, whatever it is. And the last one is an academic monologue, 4 areas. In reading, you will be exposed to journals, extracts from journals, books, newspapers, and magazines. I need to tell you upfront that it gets progressively more difficult as you go. But of course, with practice, it should be an easy walk. For the writing, you have just 2 tasks, task 1 and task 2. The first task is, sorry, Prof, can you please let me know when I have 5 minutes left? I can't see anything else on the screen.
You have 5 minutes left.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So, writing, you have to write a letter, a formal letter, and the second
No,
part,
sorry. You actually have 14 minutes. I used 10, so I add 5 at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. So
So you
just
have
let me
like
know when I
9
have,
minutes. You have 9 minutes left.
thank you. Let me know when I have 5 minutes left. So
Okay.
for writing, you're going to write a letter, a formal or an informal letter. Maybe writing a letter complaining to the local government, you need help, something's not working, writing to an organization, making a formal complaint, or you're writing an informal letter to a friend. And then the speaking area, the speaking test is a conversation. It's actually an interview. It has, there are 3 areas, 3 sections to the test. The first part is just the general conversation about yourself. So where do you live? What kind of apartment? Do you live in an apartment, or you live in a block of flats, or whatever it is, right? Do you own a car? Like, just to kind of ease you into the test. And then the second section, you will be given a speech. You will be given a topic that you have to, prepare for. You have 1 minute to prepare, and then you have 2 minutes to present that speech. Thankfully, they will tell you they'll give you cues, the kind of things that they want to hear. Okay, so tell me about, you'll be required to speak about a very positive and good customer service experience that you have had. We would like to hear what the experience was about, how the issue was resolved, learn any lesson. They will give you cues as to what you'll be talking about. This is the part of the speaking test that carries the most score. And then the question and answer session is it's just a very quick, maybe 2-3 minutes session where the interviewer asks you questions relating to the speech that you gave. So it's going to start from the questions about the speech that you gave, and then a few other questions generally about anything, pretty much anything. The skills that are being tested here are your comprehension, your ability to read and to understand, your observation skills, your grammar, your vocabulary. How many words do you know, and how do you know when to use them? The context, your fluency of speaking English language, your vocabulary, your spelling, especially for the writing test, and for the writing test, your spelling is very critical. Your ability to concentrate and to focus. Here you find this being tested in the listening test. I'll have something to add to say to that later. I put ability to follow instruction because this is one of the reasons why people fail tests generally. And for IELTS, this is one of the areas that people underestimate the most. The instructions are clear. If you don't follow the instructions, you get penalized, you lose points. And trust me, English, the IELTS is different from JAM. So if you say, maybe I wrote JAM 3 times, like me, I wrote JAM 3 times, and the 3 times was not enough for me to get into the university anyway. But I wrote JAM 3 times. But if you think this is JAM, or I wrote WAEC or some other English language test, no, I'm sorry, it's different. They're going to check your structure. They're going to check your speed and your accuracy, as well as your note-taking. Note-taking is very critical, and it's a very important part of the Canadian life and culture. You are talking to someone, the person is taking notes. The person is looking at you, and the person is taking notes. That is very important. We live in a committee-driven environment, and Your ability to take notes, your ability to write as the conversation is going on is a very big thing. So that's pretty much what the listening test is about. Some of the general tips I have to give to you are, the first part, there's only two secrets, only two. Number one, you have to understand the structure. You have to understand the expectation of each part of the test. Listening, what's the expectation? Writing, what's the expectation? The letter that I want to write, what's the expectation? It's not just typing an email, guy, how far, what's going on? I'll be there tomorrow. Thank you. But in fact, most of our personal emails, we don't even go to that length. But what's the structure for each of the tests? The other part of the writing test, so that's the part two, what's it called now? The task two, where you have to, it could be a discussion, it could be an argument, where you have to present your point in a certain order. Do you understand the structure? So the biggest secret here is you have to understand the structure. And then you have to practice. I put to the nth power because that's what it really is. You have to practice.
So you have 5 minutes left now.
Thank you, sir. You have to practice and practice and practice and practice until you can score 40 or 40, 36 or 40, 38 or 40, 37 or 40. See, I didn't say 35. If you get 35, you're already somewhere below 8. Use the available resources use the resources that are available. Videos, books, they are all there. They're on YouTube. There's so many IELTS resources right now. No one has an excuse to say I don't have what to use. There's IELTS Liz, IELTS IMA, IELTS Master, E2 Language, Cambridge Resources. If you are in our groups, there are tons of resources that you can use. Don't punish yourself too much. Understand the structure and then practice. That's it. Understand yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses. So for example, reading has never been my problem. So when I started preparing for the IELTS in 2015, I didn't bother myself a lot about reading. Speed reading has been my thing. But you see, speaking, please. Listening was not a problem for me. So understand your strengths and build on your strengths, but pay a lot of attention to your weaknesses because you need the most points that you can get. Build your capacity, read novels, read articles, read journals, read things that you normally would not read. Increase the breadth of the things that you know, especially for which of the tests, one of the tests that has registered, I think I have a point on that. Watch or listen to foreign news and documentaries. BBC, CNN, please consume that. You see your Yoruba movies, avoid them for now. Your pidgin, your comedy, all of those skits, if you can minimize them, it will help you. For the period where you are preparing for this exam, please immerse yourself in foreign news, in English, of course, not Chinese, in English, foreign news, documentaries, movies, not all those Black American movies where you gonna and all of this stuff. No. Practice using full-length tests in exam conditions. Time yourself. If the writing test is 40 minutes, please time yourself for 40 minutes and practice exam conditions. And of course, you have to aim for higher scores than needed. For listening, you need to get 8 at least. You need to aim for higher score. We do not have a lot of time, so I'll throw this up there in the screen while I try to speak to a couple areas that I think I might want to point out. Like I said, if your thing is Yoruba movies, local language movies, please avoid them for this period. Please avoid a lot of conversations, extended conversations in Pidgin English, if you can. Pay attention to the pronunciation. Read the questions first before you start listening to the recording. Remember, the recording will only be played once. So if you are like me, that I can't watch a movie without putting the subtitles, this is not a good time. So subtitles, closed captions, you don't need any of that. In fact, when you are listening to the news, don't even look at the lips of the reader, because the listener is just, you have the thing in your ear. As they're speaking, you're putting your answers. You need to practice that. And then, of course, you have to follow instructions. Some of the answers will say in 2 words, in 3 words. You have to follow, you have to state it precisely as the instruction says. Your spelling matters, your tenses matters. You cannot use is when you're supposed to write was. Okay? Your singular versus plural, you write boy, you write boy instead of boys. You get penalized for that. We advise people to write in all caps, so that it's easier, right? So that you don't make the mistake of writing a noun, starting a noun. You're writing the name of Ojo, and you're writing Ojo starting with small letter, you're going to get penalized. Writing the names of now, the rules of English apply here. So just to sort of err on the side of caution, we advise write it in all caps. You can't go wrong. It may not be the best, but you can't go wrong with it. Write your answers in the question booklet. You have 10 minutes at the end to transfer your answer. So you don't have to be moving between the booklets. So as you're listening to the recording, as you're following and getting the answers, just write it in the question booklet. You have time to transfer it. Your writing must be readable, not doctor's kind of handwriting. You know exactly what I mean. And you have to practice maps. Very important, don't lag behind the recording. If you miss anything, don't beat yourself yet. Don't stop. Continue with the recording. Not say, I missed that thing, and then you go back, you're done. And don't distract yourself. If you have any kind of problem, family problem, money problem, drop it at the door, because your concentration is very critical in the listening test. Reading, again, follow the instructions. Read the questions first. The reading test is structured in such a way that the time is just enough for the average person to go through from beginning to end.
So you have finished your time, but I'm giving you 2 minutes to round up.
Thank you so much. So read the questions first before you go to start reading what's in there. Follow your guts. Don't second guess yourself. Just put the answers as you know. Don't correct yourself too much. Sometimes your first attempt is usually the right answer. Keep moving. Don't get stuck. Practice speed reading, skimming, and scanning. You don't need to read every word in that document. Practice. Just know how to look for what you need to look for. How to identify the topic sentence, where there's an area where you have to kind of put a summary. What's this whole paragraph about? A paragraph of 6 lines, you have to use a single sentence to tell us what the paragraph is about. Your writing must be legible. Use pencil so that you can easily erase and you don't have to, cancel and make your work very untidy. You have to prepare mentally and psychologically as well. It progressively gets more difficult. I think I mentioned that before. For writing, my advice to you is LOL. What are all those things that are in social media and all your WhatsApp conversations? Please, you need to throw everything away and write in full. I don't know how Gen Z is going to manage this test, but I know I see some of them, they do very well. But no abbreviations, no shortening of sentences, no shorthand at all. Strictly follow the instructions. The first part usually will say in not less than 250 words. If you write 249, you're going to get penalized. The other one, I think in not less than 300 words or in not more than 350 words. If you go outside of instructions, you get penalized. Put your points down, understand the structure, be strict with your timing, maintain the structure when you're answering, and answer directly and make sure your answers are relevant. Try to use simple sentences. Don't go and complicate your life. Learn to use, what do you call it? What's that thing again? I'm looking for it. Transition words. Furthermore, in addition, however, regardless, you have to learn to use those as you practice. These things also matter. Your spelling, your grammar, your tenses, paraphrasing, your vocabulary, your cohesion, your logical presentation and transition from point to point, your organization of your work, all of that matters. Spend more time in task number 2 rather than task number 1. Nothing more than 20 minutes in task number 1. If you can finish in 15 minutes, better for you. So you can spend the rest of your time on your task number 2. And it's important, your facts do not matter. You can fabu, you can tell stories, as long as you are following the structure that they expect, as long as they're giving them what they want, that's it. For speaking, be well dressed and be very cautious. It is an interview, but you have to be relaxed. Speaking full and short sentences. Do not say yes and then end your answer at that. That's not going to add more points. That will actually cost you marks. If it asks you a question, yes, I think so, and this is the reason I think so, and you give examples. They are just trying to get how well you speak the English language. Always expand and always use examples. It's not enough to say, I don't know. You don't know. Why don't you know? You know. Why do you know? Ask for clarification if you need to. Avoid monotone. You know how some of all those online courses you do, someone's just reading. Avoid monotone, maintain eye contact, try to dominate the conversation, and don't be rude. Avoid vernacular registers. No, you're a human being. Be emotional. Emphasize your words. Emphasize your pronunciations. Avoid vernacular. There is pidgin English. Your native language is not. You need to avoid it if you have to. If you need to use it, call it out. There is a Nigerian proverb. There's a Nigerian axiom that says, like this, not like this, not like this, not like this. And then you have to give a clear context and the reason why you're saying that. try to know a little about many things, especially for your register. That's where you have to talk about registered, because they're going to ask you all sorts of things. Try to use your personal experiences rather than using an abstract conversation. Unless you are like my daughters, that when they start giving you imagination and start telling you stories, it doesn't end. How someone went to the moon and then they ended up in my bedroom, and how they were able to drive a car in the snow and all of that. Please use personal experience if possible. Most importantly, the examiner will be writing some things on his paper. Don't let that one shake you. If you see 1, if you see 20, if you see 18, don't bother about it. It's not your business. When I did mine, I thought the numbers I was seeing there, of course, I don't even know how to interpret it. So please don't let it bother you. Don't let it throw you off. That's pretty much everything I wanted to share this morning. The IELTS test, keep this at the back of your mind, is just going to prepare you for living in Canada. Your resume writing, your cover letter writing, your phone calls in the office, your interviews that you're going to sit for, and your general life and conversation and interaction with people. That's what this test is about. I wish you the best. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you don't write the exam too many times. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Josh. That's pretty much some justice done to IELTS. I believe if you follow these tips, your next IELTS will be better if you already have not nailed it. So next we'll move to another very important aspect of this journey, and that is the education credential assessment. And to handle that, I will be handing over the mic to Obialunanma, Obi for short. All right, Obi, if you're there, you can unmute yourself, and your presentation material is coming up in a jiffy. So I also want to say that don't worry, I know everyone, you are muted because of the nature of this meeting. Is a large meeting, so we don't want everybody to be unmuted and be disrupting the flow. So there will be a time where we'll all gather into breakout rooms, and you have opportunity to select the breakout room you would like to be in based on your need. Then you can talk, and there will also be a time for question and answer. So I'll be over to you. I will share your screen now. Obi, if you can hear me, can you just talk, or send me a chat if you can't talk?
Can we have the slides on?
She's still muted.
Yeah, just have the slides on. So when she comes on, she can start immediately.
Also, you can check whether you made her an admin for her to be able to unmute.
Yeah,
she can't unmute herself. She just sent me a message that she can't unmute
she's
herself.
co-host.
She can't, can you unmute her?
Obi. Okay, let me ask her to unmute herself.
Prof, can't you unmute her?
Hello?
Yeah, Obi, we can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Yes,
yeah,
I can hear myself.
Can hear you.
Oh, she must have joined.
You have an admin with a co-host and one without a co-host. Maybe you can.
I logged in with my phone earlier, then went to my laptop.
You have to disable one. You have to log out of your phone. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll be echoing.
Yeah, you need to log out.
So which one do you want to use?
I'm using I'll just log out of the other one.
Yeah, I've left from my phone. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, my name is Obi, and I'll be presenting educational credential assessment. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Please, can you hear me?
Obi, we can hear you loud.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Hello?
We can hear you.
I can't hear myself.
Yes,
Hello,
we
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
The question is she hearing us?
Okay, I'm going to start. Obi, when you can get in, let us
Hello?
know.
Yeah,
Obi, can
okay.
you hear us?
My network.
I think she's not hearing us.
Yeah, she's not hearing, but we can obviously hear her.
Yeah.
Hello, Obi, can you hear me?
Okay, can I start now? Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah,
go
you
ahead
can
and
start.
start. Yeah,
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Just
can
go,
hear
just
you.
go ahead. Just go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello, Magabi, will you just start the presentation?
Okay, better.
So that she can
Okay,
take you from you later.
I'm going to be doing a slide until she comes up. So we're looking at one of the prerequisites to get into the pool for you to be able to come to Canada is to evaluate your credentials. So we're looking at what is ECA, what are the, and what is IRCC, and what are the bodies that they approve for us to evaluate these credentials. Which bodies can you use? Because you can't just use everything. Sorry, can you go back to that slide, the first slide? So which of the bodies can you use for whatever thing you need? As a nurse, what should you use? As a lawyer, what should you use? As a medical doctor, as a pharmacist, what should you? We're going to be looking at that. How do you apply for this? What does this cost? What it costs to do evaluation for a medical doctor is pretty different from what you use for a pharmacist, and what you're going to use for an accountant. They're all different. What is the processing time? And what is the equivalency point system? What does that mean? If you have a BSc, what point does that give you? A master's, a PhD, you have a diploma, what's that going to give you? And then we're going to see if we can answer some questions if the time permits us. Next slide. So the next slide is, what is ICA? Next slide, please. So what is ICA? It's just simply an educational credential assessment. What this simply means is that you have a certificate from somewhere in Nigeria, or you probably studied in another country that is not Canada. All they need to do is to bring your result and evaluate it to see if it is, to compare it with the Canadian result. So if I have a BSc in Nigeria or a master's and I send it for evaluation, they just need to assess it to say, okay, this master's from Unilag is equivalent to master's in Canada, or this master's from Nigeria is equivalent to a BSc or a PhD in Canada. So what that means is they're just comparing non-Canadian certificates with Canadian certificate to give you a grade to level it up with what the Canadian certificate is. Next slide. So to migrate to Canada, you will need to evaluate your credentials. You must submit your evaluated credentials when you apply as a permanent resident. These days, you are allowed to evaluate your highest foreign credentials. What does that mean? I have a diploma in chemistry. I have a BSc in chemistry. I have a master's in chemistry. If I want to evaluate my credentials, all I need to do is just evaluate my master's in chemistry. I don't need to evaluate my BSc or my diploma. There was a time that people evaluated their secondary school. I no longer need to evaluate my SSC. So all I need to evaluate is just my master's degree. If my highest degree is PhD, that's what I need to evaluate. And when you evaluate that, according to what Pierre was saying the other time, there's a score that you get in CRS, and there's also a score that you get for your grid point. So the highest point is 25, which is for your PhD. ICA is valid for 5 years. So if I do my ICAs today and the result comes out maybe in 6 months' time, which is probably sometimes in October or November, 5 years counting from then, that's when the ICA will expire. So after 5 years, the ICA will expire. We also know that IELTS expires after 2 years. So that's why it's better to do your ICAs first and then do your IELTS. If you are not sure if you're going to pass in the first shot anyway. And ICA does not guarantee that you get a job in a certain field, or it doesn't guarantee your work experience or professional credentials are automatically accepted in Canada. For example, as a doctor, because you did your ICA in MCC, and then they say, oh, this is equivalent to a medical report, a medical doctor's certificate in Canada. So when you just get to Canada, you automatically work as a Canadian doctor. It doesn't work that way. So if your profession is supposed to be licensed, after even doing evaluating your credentials, you will also have to do what? Do your professional exam as required. Next slide, please. So what are the evaluating bodies that that people use? CRS have designated several evaluating bodies to evaluate the credential depending on the kind of certificate that you have. The cost and the processing time differs from evaluating body to evaluating body. Next slide, please. One of the evaluating bodies that we use, which is very popular among Nigerians, is what we call WEST, World Educational Services. Is designated in April 2013. Normally, it takes about 35 working days after they receive review from your school. So what does that mean? It means that after 35, when you apply through WEST, you pay them full money. You're going to send them all documents that they require. For example, you're going to send things like your certificate. If you have to send your marriage certificate because of change of name, you will also have to send that. And then recently, we advise people to fax these credentials. So to reduce the cost of using DHL, fax is free. You can go and use HelloFax. Then for your school, the school has to send your transcript, and then they will send back a review back to your school to say, oh, we got the certificate from Kola. Is this certificate genuine? And the school have to reply back to you. Now for schools that you know that it takes them forever to reply to these reconfirmation letters, it is better to avoid WEST. For example, if you go to schools like maybe Lautech, and you know that they take for like forever to reply to WEST, it's better to just go for some other evaluating body that does not need a re-evaluation of your credential that you have sent to them. Maybe you went to Unilag, and in Unilag, it takes them a couple of days to send the credentials to WEST. So you can actually use WEST when you're doing that. After you've done all this, after the full payment and after the school have sent the transcript and everything for them, normally it's supposed to take 35 working days. But sometimes, because of the Nigerian school, it takes quite a lot of times more than that. WEST, oh, go back to that slide, please. WEST costs $220. So for that, we advise people to use the standard courier, which is cheaper than the international courier. That's about $10. Next slide, please. IQUAS, International Qualification Services. That costs about $200. It's in Abata. Application fee, this does not require a confirmation of the transcript that you have sent back to your school. So if your school, you attend a school, maybe like I attended ECOMA in my first degree, it took like forever for them to reply to WEST, to tell them to reply to reconfirm my certificate to WEST. So when I had to do for my spouse, I had to use this professional body. So if you fall into that category that you will do that your school is that way, it is better for you to use them. Normally it takes them 14 weeks after all documents are supplied, but sometimes it can take more than that. Next slide. International Credential Assessment Service of Canada. You send all documents to them. The change of name is required if you change name with these people. It's advisable that if you're a nurse, you can use them. If you can also use the last one I just said, IQAS, you can use them, and you can also use ICAS, which is pretty much about that. If your school also has have this method of delaying replying to West when they send for reconfirmation, this is another option for you. The processing time is 30 weeks. Next slide, please. Comprehensive education system. This costs $210. Transcripts are sent to school, are sent to them. They accept the transcript via institution official email, and they also accept by ESTNG. I did mine on my own. I didn't use this guide, so you can do yours on your own. Everything here can be done by yourself. The processing time is 15 to 20 weeks. It is better to note the processing time and the kind of certificate you have, and the school, how your school process these credentials before you determine which of them to use. For University of Port Harcourt, you must send them your credentials through ESTNG. Next slide, please.
All right, Magabi, let me take it up from here. Let me help you out. Hello?
Go ahead.
The slide is not changing. Can you change it to the next slide, please,
Next
Prof?
slide, please.
Okay, so the next slide is we have the International Credential Evaluation Service, also designated in 2015. Official document must be sent directly to the school, and they don't accept transcript via email. Most of these organizations, they don't accept transcript via email. The cost of the exam, the cost of processing is $200. For all the bodies, you don't have to pay for the international courier. Most of these bodies, they will send you an e-copy of your of your ECA report, which is all you need for this. Journey. You don't have to request for a hard copy. So 2 hard copies of this report will be sent to you electronically due to security reason, and estimated processing time is actually 20 weeks. But you have to understand that the processing time starts after the date they received all the document. So, and for this body, the application is paper-based, so you can submit your application online. So they do not currently access application from most Nigerian universities, especially Port Harcourt. Can you go to the next slide, please? And for medical doctors, this is the educational evaluation body for medical doctors. You cannot use WES. If you're a dentist, you can use WES. But if you're a medical doctor, please don't use any other body. It's very kind of a lengthy process, but it's very achievable and also very expensive. So first and foremost, you have to register on the Physician Apply, which costs $204 to get. And the transcript is going to be verified by ECFG. So once you create your profile on the Physician Apply, that is where you can apply for the, they will first do the evaluation of your medical credentials, after which you can now apply for the ECA. So you have to send your university degree certificate or transcript. You have to send it directly to them via courier. So they have their own process. So you just have to log into your Physician Apply to follow this process. They will tell you every stage your application is. So the processing time also varies, but it also depends on you, how serious you are and how to follow up with your universities. And also for the pharmacy education, for the pharmacists in the house, you also have your own body. We call them the Pharmacy Examining Board of Canada, also designated in 2014. So just like the just like doctors, you also have your own portal. We call it the Pharmacy Gateway of Canada. When you registered on this portal, they give you a number, which is the number you're going to use to practice in Canada. So it is the most expensive educational credential assessment. It costs $675. So you submit all the documents to them directly, and you also have to get in touch with your, you also have to have a very good standing with your Pharmacy Council Board of Nigeria, so which is also very important. So Like Magabi said, the processing time is actually an estimate. It could be longer depending on the volume of report they have. Can you please go back to the last slide, please? Please go back to the last slide. There are some points I need to point out there. The previous one, please. I'll be done in 1 minute. Sorry. Yeah. So the timeline are subjected to changes at any time. So IRCC automatically gets a copy of your ECA report once it's ready. So like Magabi said, ECA is valid for 5 years. So this is the best time to start if you don't have one, because sometimes it could take you more than 6 months for you to get, for you to get it completed. So you don't have to select you don't have to select an address in Canada, because you have to pay a tax of 13% on your payment. So transcript translation, if you studied in Iran and your transcript is in Arabic, you have to make sure it's translated to English. So make sure you don't send your original document, please. And fee apply to each applicant. You can't say because you are a couple, you want to pay payment is good for both of you. Next slide, please. So you have to, every applicant has to pay for his or her own application. Nurses in the house, it's always advisable for you to use WES, please. If you are a lawyer in the house, please make sure you use ICAS. Yes, if you use WES, WES is going to give you they're going to give you an equivalent of a BSc, but we've seen people challenging this because the application get rejected because of one thing or the other. So please to avoid story that touch, please make sure as a lawyer in the house, please make sure you use ICAS. And lastly, you are only required to evaluate your highest degree. I've been seeing some questions on the group, people asking that, okay, if I have HND and OND, please, before you can enroll for HND, you have to do OND. So you must make sure you evaluate both your OND and your HND. If you have OND and BSc, you also need to evaluate both. But if you have masters, OND and BSc, don't bother yourself doing the OND or the BSc. Go straight for your masters, please. The highest qualification is all you need to evaluate. Thank you very much. All right, that's all from me, Prof. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, my baby.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kolilere, for coming to our rescue. We work together as a team here so that, that's what teamwork is about, not so that nobody feels the pulse, too much when the burden is heavy. So we go straight to 10 minutes of questions and answer, and that will be anchored by OSAS. All right. So OSAS, there are some questions that were sent through the email during the registration. So for the questions that were sent, so that will be given priority. And please, fellow admins, could you look through the, I know a lot of questions that have been asked on the group have been attended to. So we just, after the questions from the mail have been attended to, if you have questions, you can raise your hand. I would give opportunity to 1 or 2 persons to talk. And then once the 10 minutes is over, we move to the next item. So OSAS, over to you.
Morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, sure, we can hear you.
Okay. For those of you already that didn't have the opportunity to send the question,
you could speak a little louder. Will be very.
Sorry. Okay, so maybe I should use headphones. But for those of you that didn't have the opportunity to the question earlier, you can still continue putting them in the chat group. Those of us that will be responding to you shortly. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, he's better. He's better.
Okay. The first question is, I have an expired passport bearing my husband's name. Now I want to renew it with my father's name, but my worry now is that I have used it to apply for US visiting visa, but didn't succeed. Can it be possible? But my kids bear my husband's name, but he is dead. Should I change their surname to my own again. Where do I register and prepare for the exam? Well, since you technically, when this last part of it says, where do I register and prepare for the exam? That means you've not even started the process at all. In that case, you can still change it. But if you've already started the process, it's best you just wait, because at every phase while trying to get the Canadian passport, you will still be asked if you've changed your name. For example, myself, I changed my name when I was done with WAEC, and right from the point of the application, PR, even submitting your passport for your PR, they will ask you if you change your name. Even while filing for your citizenship, they will still ask you if you changed your name in the past, and those information they will still go back to it. So from the write-up you gave, it seems you've not even started the process. So feel free to change it, as long as it's done legally and you have proof maybe from an affidavit from the courts. And if you published it in the newspaper, keep those as evidence. Next question says, I'm in Cameroon. I wish to know what's the first thing to do. I think if you're here, you should know that already. There are a list of things that you're supposed to do, but like with the delay we're currently having now, IELTS and your ECA would take priority, but nevertheless, everything is equally as important. You just have to go through the list and start preparing. The next question is, I wish to appreciate you for this passport. However, I have a question whereby the age on one passport is different from the one in school and ECA. How do I go about resolving this? You didn't give more information. You didn't give much information about which is older and which is younger, and which you have in every other document. But I think they would take the one on your international passports more serious. While trying to complete your application, I think there should be a tab you're supposed to upload explanation. If you have anything that you would want to say to them, I think you should also include that in your information, that okay, maybe for some reason they got your what's it called, your date of birth wrong. I also had that problem because okay, while I was writing WAEC, they missed my months and my dates, the day I was born, they missed it. So for example, mine was April 6th, so they changed it to June 4th. So I also still pointed that out in my letter of explanation, which I attached while doing my application, and they never even brought it up at all. So I doubt it if that should be an issue, but nevertheless, it's best you also prepare in case they might want to probe more into that area. Next question says, hello team, thank you for the great job you're doing. I would like to know if there is a way to get a provincial nomination, and what do I need to do? Second part of the question says, is there a way one can get a job to further boost their CRS score? Okay, from the first question, provincial nomination, like every province has their own rules and regulation. They will definitely pick those based on what they need locally. So for example, places like initially before the oil, the prices in oil, maybe Alberta, the province of Alberta would want those from the oil and gas. The same way those in the government of Ontario will want people with more STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or those in IT. And maybe those in the Atlantic province will want more nurses. So most times they do selection in terms of your profession, who is available in the pool at that point, and they also have their rules and regulations which they use in selecting. So it's best you research every province you're interested in, and also, prepare accordingly for their next draw. Or if possible, they still have emails you can reach them on. You can still contact them to ask, while you also still ask people in the group. The second part of the question says, one can get job. Well, it's possible, but it's slim, but it's still possible. There are still people from Africa, Nigeria that have gotten jobs. It's not easy because most times they consider those that are available locally here in Canada. They consider maybe North America before they start looking elsewhere. And putting the population of those in Canada and those in the North America, the chances are slim, but it is still possible. I think that should be all from the list we got. If we're open to picking from those already.
Okay. So I would give opportunity to people who raised their hand to answer question. We still have like 4 or 5 minutes left. So Busayo, you can speak now. I've asked you to unmute.
Good afternoon. Yeah, please, I want to ask my wife, she have not changed her name. She's still bearing her father's name.
Okay.
Must she change it?
It's not compulsory, but you just have to let them know that, okay, my wife hasn't or decided not to change her name. There are people that are married that still bear their father's name rather than the husband's name. It's not really a big issue for them, but ensure that you point it out. It shouldn't be a problem. Okay. As long as all her documents are consistent with the one name, and if she's claiming she changed her name, especially maybe in the case of getting married, an affidavit from the court and also the marriage certificate would serve.
Okay, and then finally, sir, how do I know the best? Because I studied in the north in Nigeria, so I don't know how do I know the best body that I will use to assess my documents and credentials? And must my wife do same?
It's not if it depends who is the principal applicant. Is it yourself or your wife? If it's yourself, that's you applying, you're the principal applicant, your wife doesn't need to, but it's best she does, because she would also contribute points to the application, and the higher your points, the better your chances of being picked or your score being above the draw. In regards to your certificates, I think there is a list, or what documents being circulated for best body to evaluate for certain professions. I don't really know about others, but I think for some certain professions, like you already know, I think some body rates give more points or more higher evaluation than others. Personally, I used West, but I think you would have to ask in the group for the best body to evaluate the credential that you hold. But if it's mostly engineering or science courses, I think it should be fine. But please do the research and ask for the Word document file in the group.
Okay, so please, because of our time, you can only ask one question. Esther, please ask a question.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I already started my process to doing my master's in Canada. Is there a way I can run both concurrently, like doing the West, going all over doing West and then doing my master's at the same time?
Okay, if I may get you right, you said you already applied for student
masters. Yes.
Have you been granted your? I think there's a document they give you. That's okay. You have a seat, but you still have to apply for your work permit. Sorry, your student visa. Have you applied for the student visa yet?
No, I'm still in the process of doing that. I've not done that yet.
I don't think it affects that. At the end of the day, they might just decide to approve one, and on the other hand, they might look at it that, oh, is she trying to run away from Nigeria and plan? But nevertheless, apply. Go ahead with both of them. Any one of them would go through, and you can decide to pick one over the other.
Okay, I have a second question. What if when I get to...
You can only ask one question. I'm sorry.
They can still drop it in the chat.
Yeah, so we'll still have time for question. We just want to make sure that we run through everything and we don't have any. So I'll just give one last question opportunity. That's almost.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
There's very interesting question here that I want us to look at.
What did you say?
There's an interesting question here.
Okay, please take that one. That will be the last one on the chat.
So
Okay.
from Oluwa Ademilola, he said, I and my husband are below 35. We calculated using CRS with both masters evaluated and a good health result, which is 8777. And yet we didn't meet up the CRS of 470. Please, what else can we do to boost our points? Note that we have over 6 years of experience. So what can they do? They are below 35 and they have a score of 8777 and their CRS score is 470. When Pierre was talking, he said 8777 is good. But the highest you can get is band 10, which is 8.5 in listening and 7.5 in other modules. Now you said you have a good health score. I don't know where the 8 is, and I don't know where the 7 is. So first of all, we can't do anything about your age. We can't do anything about your masters, because before you get a PhD, we don't now take a few years. So what we can easily deal with right now is your IELTS result. You have 8. So you can increase that to 8.5 in listening and 7.5 in other modules. That will give you 3 points in each of these. So if you and your spouse can aim at 8.5 in listening and 7.5 in other modules, you probably might be able to get more than 472. One of my friends was in 8.5, 7.5, 7.5, and 7. And he was like 1 mark. He kept being in 1 mark to get to ITA. And I said, when I calculated, I said, you know what? I said, no, you go write else, your wife go write else. I said, hey, why would I do that? I said, that's 3 points. That 2 points, you get it from that 0 point.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Magabi. I'm sorry, I have to cut you. I have to cut in now. I don't know where the echo coming from.
I think it's from her. She's on speaker or something. Can I?
Yeah, she was on speaker, but it's gone. Now that she has started talking, it's gone.
Okay.
Let me add to what she was saying.
I'm sorry. Please, I need us to be very, very conscious of time. We still have time for question. Okay.
Okay, this one is just less than 1 minute.
Okay, please go ahead.
What she needs to do is she needs TEF, or like Magabi said, it has to be 8 in reading, 8.5 in listening. Then the rest, that's writing and speaking, 7.5. That's what she can do to get CLB 10, the highest score. It's not 7.5 in reading, but 8 in reading, 8.5 in listening, 8 in reading, 7.5 in writing and speaking. Also, if she has attained all those, she should just go for TEF. TEF will give her extra 72 points if she marks it, then less than 30 points if she's on average score. So that's the only 2 things she can do now for her to get a better or a standard CRS.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much. Osas, thank you so much for your time in tackling those questions. I just want to encourage all the admins, please, let's put our thoughts in the chats. I just want us to maximize all the communication channel that we have for the time that we have. So if you have additional input on this question, please go ahead and put in the chat. And participants, you can ask your question, and admins, as they have been attending to it, they will continue to attend to all the questions. So the next item now is the entrepreneur route. We have different routes to come to Canada. Some people come through education. Some people come, like most of us did, through the Federal Skilled Worker Express Entry, provincial nomination. You know, I came through provincial nomination in Ontario, and so many routes. So one of the routes that is least known about and least explored is this entrepreneur route. So I want us to take a listen. It's a recorded video by one of us, Ola, who is not able to be here physically. So I know that some of us may want to take this route. So please take a listen and yeah, so let's go.
Hello, everyone. Well, to start off, let me ask you two questions. Question one, are you a senior manager or an experienced business owner with a net worth of about 600,000 Canadian dollars? The second question, are you interested in immigrating to Canada? If you answered yes, hello everyone. Well, to start off, let me ask you two questions. Question one, are you a senior manager or an experienced business owner with a net worth of about 600,000 Canadian dollars? The second question, are you interested in immigrating to Canada? If you answered yes to these questions, then this presentation is probably what you want to know. My name is Hola, and I would like to welcome you to the presentation on immigration to Canada through entrepreneurial route. In the next couple of minutes, I'll be taking you through what I know from my personal experience on immigration to Canada through this route. I'll be focusing on the province of Nova Scotia only because that's what I did. It doesn't mean you can't check out other provinces or look at other streams. I'm only focusing on Nova Scotia because that's my personal experience. Now, before I go further, it is very important I say this. I would like to emphasize that this presentation is entirely based on my personal experience on this journey. I'm not an immigration lawyer or consultant, neither am I an expert on immigration. I was requested to share my experience for information purposes only, with the hope that it may help someone. So please, in making your decisions and in anything you do regarding this, do your own research and seek counsel as may be appropriate to your circumstances. So, Nova Scotia Provincial Nominee Program, Entrepreneur Route. It's popularly called NSNP.
I see a lot of complaint about audio. Admin, can you give me feedback? Can you hear anything?
Yes, the audio issue has been resolved. So we are,
Yes, we can hear. It's a bit muted, but we can hear it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Entrepreneurial stream. So what is this program all about? It's a temporary to permanent residence program whereby approved applicants are required to operate a business in the province of Nova Scotia on a valid work permit for a minimum of 1 continuous year prior to being nominated for permanent residence in Canada. So that's simply what the stream is all about. It is you start off as a temporary resident to permanent resident, all within. Now, application to this stream is by invitation only. So it's the province that invites people, but of course, before.
Okay, it seems the audio is not so loud. I may have to stop this. I will see if I can enhance the audio of the file itself for the next meeting. So sorry about that, because there's no point playing and people aren't hearing. It's the audio seems
but
very.
I can hear. I can hear it perfectly well.
Hear it.
Okay, all right.
Maybe network from the other end. So I actually can hear excellently.
People are even saying they can hear. I can see messages here saying I can hear.
Okay.
I can hear.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You get to that, you have to show interest. And on this slide, I put the criteria, what they look at before you can even show interest in the program. You must, of course, be above 21 years. You must want to live permanently in Nova Scotia while owning and actively managing a Nova Scotia business. you must have a net worth of at least 600,000 Canadian dollars. Now, let me say this, that net worth doesn't necessarily mean cash. So net worth is your assets minus liabilities, right? So it could mean real estate, things, assets that you own. It could even include the value of your furniture, minus anything that you have liability for, and then that is your net worth. And the province they have this a way of checking this. When further along the program, you get to know more about that. Then you must be able to invest at least $150,000 Canadian dollars of your net worth. So that's where the cash comes in. So you have assets of 600,000 Canadian dollars. You must be able to bring about 150,000 of it to establish a business in Nova Scotia. You must have at least 3 years experience actively managing and owning a business. Maybe currently you're a business owner and you've been actively managing that business for the past 3 years. Or if you are a professional, you have to be a senior manager in your field and you must have 5 years of experience as a senior manager. Then you must have a score of at least 5 on the Canadian language benchmark in speaking, listening, reading, and writing, whether English or French. And I will explain more about this later in terms of what we are familiar with, those of us that are more familiar with IELTS. Then you must complete an online expression of interest, and you must receive an invitation to apply. Now, let me talk a bit about the steps that are required in the process. So there are about 6 steps, and the first one is expression of interest. So the province has, it's online. This expression of interest is online, and what they just require you to do is to show an interest that, okay, you are willing to whether start a business in Nova Scotia or buy an existing business. You have to tell them what the business is all about. You have to answer some questions that they will use in giving you points, and that will determine whether you meet the cutoff points or not, and whether they're going to invite you. And then if you are invited, you'll be asked to come to the province for an in-person interview. And the next thing after that is, all things being equal, they give you a work permit, and then you'll be able to establish your business in Nova Scotia. You arrive in Nova Scotia, and after operating the business in Nova Scotia for a year, then you request for nomination. The province, all things being equal, nominates you for permanent residency, and you apply for permanent residence. So let me talk a bit more about that expression of interest, the history. So if you go to the official website of the province of Nova Scotia Immigration, you will see under this stream there's an invitation history. So basically, on average, they do the draw like every month. Sometimes they do not as frequent as every month. Of course, as we all know, COVID-19 has affected quite a number of things. So, but on this slide, I try to put the draws that they've done since November 2018 till the last time I checked the website, and that was a few weeks ago, and I saw that the last draw they did was in December. So one thing of note is the score of lowest ranked candidates invited. You'll see that usually they invite people that score mostly above 112. Sometimes they've invited people that score 110, but I think it would be safe to plan with 112. Now, this slide, I will try to explain my understanding of how the points are calculated, how you get to a desired point. My suggestion is to work at getting at least 115. So at least you are sure of an invitation to be sent to you. Not that if you can work with 112, but if you can, I think it's just better to plan with 115. That's okay. This is where you want to be, and you want to be sure that you're going to be invited. So let's talk about this. Let's go over this expression of interest table. Now, this expression of interest table, you'll see it has a number of factors, and we'll just go through it one after the other. The language factor, it says CLB is 7 or higher. In IELTS terms, what does this mean? It simply means that in your speaking, and I'll just be focusing on English language. Of course, you can do English or French. So it just means that in your speaking, in your listening, reading, and writing, you get nothing less than 6. So with this program, if you are able to get nothing less than 6 in each of speaking, listening, reading, and writing, then you are sure of getting the maximum points that is available on this factor, which is 28 points. Then the education part, if you have a post-secondary degree or diploma, you get 21 points. If you have a master's degree, you get the maximum points, which is 23 points. And if you have 2 or more post-secondary degrees or diploma, you get 22 points. Now, business ownership or senior management experience. So I know, well, from my personal experience, I know that most people at least would be able to for in the first instance, I'm just assuming that if you are interested in this stream, at least you should be at a level where you would have had some senior management experience, so you can easily get some points there, which is about 20 points. If you are a senior manager with at least 5 years of experience, as a senior manager, you can get 20 points. But much more better if you have 5 years of business ownership experience, you can get a whole of 35 points. So the next one is net worth. The net worth, if you have net worth between 600,000 Canadian dollars to a 999,999 Canadian dollars, you get 5 points. And I put here, why I put 3 columns here is just to show 3 possible scenarios. That's just my own playing with the numbers, so it doesn't mean that that's the requirement. So I was just playing with possible points just for illustration purposes. That's why I put this there. So you get 5 points if you have a net worth of between this range. And I think if you have a net worth of $1 million Canadian dollars to 1.5 million, I think you get 7 points. If you have greater than 1.5, you get 10 points. But I didn't bother to put all that because I just feel I just assume that on an average, most people will fall here. It's an assumption. Then, of course, the age. In this program, you get the maximum points if you are within the age bracket of 32 to 39. Now you get the maximum points. If you are over 40, you get to drop points. If you are not up to 32, you don't get up to 10 points. If you are between 21 and 24, you get 5 points. If you are between 25 and 32, you get 7 points. Between 32 and 39, as I said, you get 10, and then the points start dropping from 40 and above. I want to, as we all know, I guess this age is considered the age where maybe the system believes that you have more time to work in Canada. I'm just assuming. The sixth factor is adaptability, and that is you get some points if your spouse, if you have a spouse and your spouse is able to do the HIELTS and your spouse is able to get minimum of CLB4 in each of speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And in HIELTS terms, what does this mean? It just simply means that in speaking, your spouse should get nothing less than 4 in IELTS terms. In listening, your spouse should get nothing less than 4.5. In reading, your spouse should get nothing less than 3.5. In writing, your spouse should get nothing less than 4. So those are the in IELTS terms that we are most of us are used to. Those are the requirements: speaking 4, listening 4.5, reading 3.5, writing 4. So if your spouse is able to get those minimum points in his or her IELTS, then you are sure of getting additional 5 points there. Then there are some other factors on adaptability that I didn't bother to put here, but I just put, IELTS for spouse because I just feel that's what is most applicable on average. There are some other points like if you have a past study experience in Nova Scotia, if your spouse has a past study experience in Nova Scotia, if you have ever worked in Nova Scotia before, if you have relatives in Nova Scotia, you get 5 points. So if you go to the website to see more on adaptability, but like I said, I limited it to IELTS just for the sake of this illustration. The seventh factor is what they call economic priorities, and under that economic priorities, you get additional 5 points if you are buying an existing business. You get additional 5 points. You can say you want to come and do a startup, so there's no additional point for that. But if you are buying an existing business, they give you additional 5 points. And I would like to stress this too. They give additional 5 points if your proposed business location is outside of Halifax, environment. You get additional 5 points. And personally, I would advise that you strongly consider this. That's personal, on a personal note. Then the last factor is investment. So I said your net worth, you must not be nothing less than 600,000 Canadian dollars. Now, out of that 600,000 Canadian dollars, which is not necessarily cash, is your net worth. It can include non-cash assets. So out of that, you must be able to bring 150,000 Canadian dollars in cash to the province for your business, and you get 10 points for that. If you are willing to bring more than 300,000 Canadian dollars, you have a chance of getting 15 points. So if you look at all these factors, that's how the points are given. And if you are able to work around this, to be able to at least conveniently have a score of 115, then most likely I believe you will be invited to apply. Okay. There are some other additional criteria when purchasing an existing business. Under this stream, if you can, I would suggest that you consider purchasing an existing business. Personally, again, this is a personal note. It doesn't mean you have to do it, but if you can, I would suggest that you do that. So there are some additional criteria when purchasing an existing business. The first one is the business must have been in continuous operation by the same owner in Nova Scotia for the previous 5 years. Another point is if you are purchasing an existing business, the program allows that your partner, with some other people if you want to, as long as you have 33, I think it's 33% ownership, you are eligible to the program. You are eligible to apply as long as you have 33% ownership. My preference is to keep these things simple if you can, but again and again, that's a personal note. If you can, try and keep it simple. And what keeping it simple, you may want to consider 100% ownership. It just makes everything simpler. But of course, the program allows for partnership, that maybe up to 33% ownership. So the second point is all the partners must come for an exploratory visit to meet the current owners of the business that you are purchasing. And in the business agreements and the purchase price and all that, you must be able to show that you've taken reasonable efforts to establish a fair market value for the business. Usually you do this with the help of a business lawyer, which is something I do strongly advise, if you can, to consider. The business must be actively in operation. It must not be in receivership. And then you must continue to offer the same or similar terms and conditions to existing staff. You are buying a business, ordinarily it will have some existing staff. You should maintain the same wages and employment terms as much as possible. So those are the additional criteria. Now, in this next slide, I'm going to talk about tips. What helped me, and I would just like to share them. As I said before, I think I mentioned this before, consider choosing outside of Halifax. It gives you additional points. I've found out through personal experience that they kind of favor people that want to move out, because I understand they're trying to encourage other places outside of Halifax to develop. So that's a point you may want to consider. Honesty. I cannot even overemphasize this. Just be honest in everything you do under this stream. Just be truthful, be honest, with God on your side. You get it done. Keep the business ownership simple. What do I mean by this? The program allows 30% ownership of the business you are going to buy. But if you keep it simple, if you own 100%, it just makes it simpler. But it doesn't mean you have to do it, but I just feel that it makes it simpler. Then consider using a business lawyer. Again, this is a personal note. It's what I did. Consider using a business lawyer. It makes your life easier. I think they are, in my experience, they are affordable, and it just makes everything easier for you. Because of time, I will not be able to talk more about it, but just consider it. And consider using a consultant for your business establishment plan. So under the program, there's the part of what you would submit when you get your invitation to apply. You have to submit an application to the province. So part of that application includes a business establishment plan. I think with under 3,000 Canadian dollars, you can get a decent business establishment plan. And again, it's personal experience. I believe it helped using that. So there are some useful resources I put here. If you go to businessesforsale.com. You can see massive number of, information on that site. You just put the area that you are interested in terms of location, where you want to buy business. You've seen a number of businesses, amazing. People that want to, businesses that are for sale. It gives you options. And of course, I put the Nova Scotia immigration site there. That's the novascotiaimmigration.com. You see all this information there, everything you need to know about the stream. So, key takeaway. Of course, first and foremost, commit it to God. With God, nothing, absolutely nothing is impossible. Just make sure God is with you all the way. Commit it to God. It is possible. It's simple. It's achievable. Research. I can't say this enough. Research. You have to be interested. You have to get in front of your computer. You have to, just research, find out about things, read up on things, and of course, ask questions. When you ask questions, it just makes things easier because you're able to ask, you're able to clarify and all. It took about 7 weeks from the time I submitted to the time I received my approval. So the program is quite fast. The stream is under a program called Global Skills Strategy, whereby your visa processing is expedited as you are deemed essential, and it is considered important that you quickly come and start operating your business in Canada as soon as possible. And of course, the program allows bringing your spouse and your kids to Canada with you. During the 1 year of operating your business in Canada, before your PR, your spouse is given an open work permit, and your kids are given temporary residence visas or study permits. So if they are of school age, you should consider applying for study permits for them alongside your application. And of course, all this status will change to permanent residency in a year, all things being equal. Closing. I've said it.
All right, thank you, Ola, for that very detailed. So if that is something you are interested in and you want more information, like you said, you can do, research is very important. I can also reach out to us. We can connect you with her to provide further information on that. So very quickly, we're going to the next presentation, which talks about the Saskatchewan Immigration Provincial Nominee Program. Sask is one of the, well, you will hear from the horse's mouth. Don't let me make his presentation. But I would say this is a very important presentation. It's one of the provinces, in my opinion, that has a very straightforward provincial nominee program that is very easily accessible. So for those who have left the call, you may want to reach out to them to come and listen to this presentation. The last time we did breakout room, the Saskatchewan breakout room had the highest number of people, and they didn't want to leave. So I'll be turning it over now to Ambi Matt to take the Saskatchewan Provincial Immigration Program. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Simka. Hi, everyone. My name is Masayas. I'll be sharing my screen now. And you can call me Matt, short form for Ambassador Matt. So I'm going to be exploring 3 paths for the immigration streams. These are mainly the 3 paths for international skilled workers. we've got several. We've got the entrepreneur as well, where you can buy a farm, buy a store, buy a small business. We've got the agricultural path as well, but we are not delving into all that right now. So I'll just be considering the Saskatchewan Express Entry, the occupation in demand, and the employment offer. So I'm gonna go to the next slide. So the occupation in demand, which is what most people are aware of, from the express entry. And what you need to do with the occupation in demand is they have, Saskatchewan has a list of occupation that are exempted. Apart from that list, all other occupation, NOCs, are included in that occupation in demand. So what you need to do is just go to saskatchewan.ca, www.saskatchewan.ca. You're going to see like a list of the exempted NOCs, the ones they don't want. Those are things like probably they have their projection, they don't need more of these occupations. So they don't put those on the list. Apart from that, majority of all the NOCs are included in the list. So I'm sure many of us are going to find NOC in the list. So we have NOC A, B, and 0, which are the ones, which are the ones that people, most of us will fall under, and the NOCs that require education, either college education, or maybe even if you don't have education, but you are, I don't mean you have zero education. I mean, if you don't have like very high education, maybe you had after your SSC, you have like 6 months diploma course, but you have experience, you are like in top management or something, you are in NOCs, and then you can go in for some of these NOCs. You can just create your profile. So what you need for the SK Express entry is you need your valid Express entry profile number and the job seeker code. You need 60 points on the SIMP point assessment grid. I will quickly go into elaborate a little bit on that 60 points. So there are like a few ways that they consider this, they look at this, and under several categories. One of the factor one, which is the labor market success, and there's the factor two, which talks about your ease of settling down. That is called the connection to Saskatchewan labor market and adaptability. So the first one is it looks like the express, the normal express entry. So it has like qualification where your work experience in the last 5 years actually come into focus. And if you have like 5 years experience, you have like 10 points, 4 years, 8 points, 3 years, 6 points, keeps going down. If you have like 10 years of experience, you have additional 5 points. So the first 5 years, you have 10 points. And then probably if your years of experience is 8, so the first 5 years, you have 10 points. Then the 3, you have like 3 points. So you can just add those together, and then you have the language ability, which is going to make use of your IELTS or your CELPIP or your TEF that so many admins have talked about, or your TEF. So please take into consideration that Saskatchewan takes TEF as well. That's for the French, but we don't speak French. I mean, it's not like Quebec. We are not majorly French, but of course, we are majorly English, but it's good to be bilingual because you're going to be dealing with like so many other people. And then we come to age. We all know that the younger you are, between 8 to 21, you get 8 years. Between 22, so they were looking for people from 22 to 45. So between 22 to 34, you've got 12 points. 35 to 45, you have 10 points. So take note that they want people in 22 to 45, which gives you a high, like even express entry, if you are like above 40, you don't have so much points. But here, if you are between 35 and 45, you get 10 points. And so that's the end for the factor 1. The factor 2 talks about your connection and how it's going to be easy for you to settle down. And that's where the close family relative comes in. People always think that, well, I know people try to say, if your surname is my surname, probably you can sponsor, you can nominate me. It doesn't work that way. Most of us that are here, we already put in our parents' names, our siblings' name in our application. And so you can't say, Mr. A, name, I have to, I can nominate that person. No, it doesn't work that way. And cousins are not, well, cousins are, the first cousins are part of it. I know people do like, this is my fourth cousin, my fifth cousin. No, that doesn't work. But the first cousins are part of it. Step family members, you can nominate those ones. You can nominate your niece, your nephew, your uncle, your aunt, your grandparents, and all those ones. Then if you have like a past work experience in Saskatchewan, it gives you like 5 points. And maybe probably you schooled, you did a diploma in Saskatchewan, it gives you 5 points. So overall, you have to get 60 over 100, 60 points over 100 for you to be able to do well on the assessment, point assessment grid. And then your English language has to be good. The last draw that I heard of, I think they got to 68. So it's possible that you are above 60 and you haven't still been chosen. You've been in the pool for a long time. Yes, that happens because many people have family and relative, and so they probably got more than 80 points. And so they will go for those ones first, and then they will come back to, but in some cases that doesn't work. In some cases, they may look at people that maybe they're just looking for like few accountants. Accountants are like probably like 60, maybe 67, 66. They just draw it a little bit closer to catch the, like the NOC they are focusing on, and so that works. And as I mentioned earlier, and the experience, you need experience on the job that you the NOC that you are targeting, or maybe the one you are right now. You need experience on it, and yeah, you need professional status too. Sorry, there are some courses, there are some NOCs that you will need certification for, and those are like engineering courses. If you're an engineer, and right now I think not accountant, some IT, you need to register with SASC. There's a body in Saskatchewan that's of the IT, so you need to register with them. It's not such a big process. It may take a little time, but they just verify that, oh, so you're a manager, right? This is what you come in as. So you just do your eligibility for licensure for that, and you need to show your settlement of fund. The settlement of fund, I know this is very common. Looking at SASC, you need to have your the POF in your account for the last 90 days. That's like 3 months prior to when you put in your application, because they can pick you anytime, and then you need to prove that the settlement fund is in your account. And then the settlement plan, you need to write a settlement plan that shows how you're gonna settle down in Saskatchewan when you. So you can get the settlement plan on the presentation slide, www.ic.gc.ca. So if you have all these things, it will be easy for you to apply for the express entry, and then the EOI. You will need some of these for the EOI as well. So the way the EOI works, and that's the expression of interest. The way it works is you get into the pool and you wait for the draw to come up. So your profile is going to be valid for 1 year from the day you submit it, and then you can only have one active EOI profile. So you fill in all your data there, but you can't, like you get everything completed if you have some of the forms, some of the path that is missing, you are going to see like a red, like it's going to show on the left hand side. I tried to log into the one I did like almost 4 years ago, but I'm not sure. I think it keeps throwing me out. But I know I could still get in there one way or another. So if you haven't finished that your profile, you're going to see like red. It's going to tell you that there are still some things for you to fill until you see everything is green, and then you know you are ready to submit your EOI. And the highest ranked candidates will be invited to apply for the SIMP. And the SIMP is an electronic system, and they will communicate that to your email. They will send you an email and inform you for all the data, all the details you need. Probably they may have some questions. They inform you, and to make sure that everything is correct and accurate at all times, you need to make sure that happens. Check your POF. If it drops because of value of Naira that drops sometimes, so you need to top it up, make sure that everything is ready. So by the time they get to your turn, they make sure that there's no need for them to ask you to give them more further information, or maybe to clarify some things. But please make sure you don't provide false information. Like if you have been denied visa before going to US or to UK, please just state everything there. I mean, people get thrown out just for little things. So make sure you dot all your I's and you cross all your T's, so that your application will not be refused. And the SIMP does not limit the intake of EOI. Anybody can do it. You can put in your EOI profile as often as as many people as wants to do that. So this is the progression from the EOI profile. You create a profile, you finish the profile, it goes into the candidate pool, and then there's the candidate selection that comes up. They give you invitation to apply. After that, then you make your application submission. After you've checked that everything is correct, everything is up to date, and if there's some things you need to take care of, like in my own case, I put in my IELTS that got expired, and they told me to write another one. They give me like 60 days. So I quickly had to book and write another one quickly and present it. So you need to take care of that. And then they do your SIMP assessment, and they tell you the next things to do. So you can go for employment offer. Yeah, the other route that I'm going to talk about, the third one is the employment offer. If you have employment offer, this can help you greatly, and you can get that at www.saskjobs.ca, www.indeed.ca. Just go to the region of Saskatchewan, and you can do that on Glassdoor as well. So these three websites are very good. And then you can go to the Government of Saskatchewan website, which is www.saskatchewan.ca. As I mentioned earlier, you get so much information from there. And then, so there are some documents that you will need for finishing your profile, your UI profile. And one of them is of course, you're gonna need your passport number. You are gonna need your date of birth, yes or no to having an immigration representative. If you're a skilled worker who wants to live and work in Saskatchewan, you need to get all your documents, do your ECA, do you have a job offer? If you do, it's going to add more points. That's the employment route. And then just give them all the information they need. And I think that is all I have today. So I'm just going to show statistics of how it goes, how the draw went like late last year to early this year. They're still picking people, although it's not so consistent as it used to be, but COVID did not stop them. They're still picking people. They're still taking little by little. And so you need to always be active. You need to always check your profile. You need to always update your profile, update your POF, make sure everything is up to date, and just pray and cross your fingers. Very soon going to be your turn. So, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the entrepreneur category. You can go to the website, Saskatchewan website. You're going to see all these if you are interested. But we're not talking about that today. So thank you for your time. I'm going to finish up now. Thank you, and I wish you all the best. Over to you, Inka.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. That was very, very detailed and on time. Okay, so we go over to the next presentation, and this is going to be taken by Viv, and it's on Manitoba provincial nominee program. So Viv, your slide is coming up now. The presentation will be for just 10 minutes so that we can get into a lot of interaction in the breakout room. We have just 2 more presentations, then we open the breakout room. So over to you. Viv, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes.
Okay, so your slide is coming up now.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Viv Faraibi, and I'm going to be presenting a short talk on Manitoba.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, we are waiting for the slide.
Yeah, here you go.
Okay. So Manitoba is one of the provinces in Canada. We are going to be looking at their provincial nomination, how they do it. Okay. It's one of the 10 provinces in Canada, like I said, and the 5th most popular one. We have Ontario, we have Manitoba, we have Alberta, and the rest. The capital of Manitoba is Winnipeg, and is bordered by Ontario and Saskatchewan. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, the official language is English, unlike some provinces that are bilingual. But here, mostly is English, and French too is an added advantage, though it's not for the PNP. We have to be fast about it. Okay, in Manitoba, we have some streams: federal skilled work overseas, strategic, skilled worker in Manitoba stream. We have international, and we have business. But today, due to time constraint, we are going to be talking about SWO, overseas. That's skilled worker overseas stream. That's the one we are going to be focusing on. So we have, you have to create your profile on their PNP profile. That's expression of interest. And the minimum score should be like 60 points. Before, they used to do paper-based and internet application. But for a while, there was no, for like 2 years or less, they stopped the stream. But recently, they just started. They just did one draw 2 days ago. That's on the 19th. You need a connection, a family, close family tie. for you to create your profile there. Friend cannot give you a good point because friend will give you 50 points. And if the person is within Winnipeg is 50 points, then outside Winnipeg is 100 points. That's for friends, which will not give you, which is almost insignificant. Okay, we have trainings, we have skilled that meets Manitoba in demand occupation. Some were removed, while some were added. So if you're going to apply for EOI, you should check the NOCs that were removed recently and the ones that were added. So you should have a guide to it. Then the minimum requirements, you have to be in the pool, you have to have your ECA. Like I said, your NOC should be in demand. Your proof of fund is a little less than the FSW proof of fund, but it has to be ready before you submit. You have your sponsor, which is supposed to be your family, close family person that is supposed to sponsor you. Somebody will say, okay, I'm standing in for him or her, that they are my people, they are my family. You should have a document to show that they are your family. If not, your application will be bounced. Then the person should be above 18 years. Then a resident, a PR or citizenship. If he's a refugee, is a no-no. People that are seeking asylum is a no-no. Then your POF has to be in liquid, as in it has to be easily available. You have to show that it's not tied in any way, it's not, anytime they request for it, you should have a document to show that it's readily available. Next slide, please. For low income cutoff, we call it LICO. For family, you can just see it on the slide. For one person is about 1296 Canadian dollars. Just go through it. Because of time, we need to just be fast. Next slide, please. How to apply for Manitoba PNP. First step is go to the website, www.immigrationmanitoba.com, submit your expression of interest. You'll be asked so many questions, which you answer. Then your grid points will be given to you, usually above 500 points. Then if you have a license, so if your NOC is regulated, it will give you additional 100 points. If your sponsor is living outside Winnipeg, it will give you additional 100 points. It will give you additional 50 points. So by so doing, if your sponsor is outside Winnipeg, it gives you an additional point because it will help you to get to 600 and something. Unlike those in the Winnipeg, that will be between 550 and 600. Then when you submit, if you're successful and your NOC is in demand and you meet the criteria for that day's draw, you'll be sent a letter of advice to apply. We call it LAA. Successful candidates are nominated by MPNP, and you are expected to submit your application within a stated period of time. Then if you don't meet up, if you accidentally click that your sponsor is outside Winnipeg, whereas your sponsor is in Winnipeg, you're advised to withdraw your application if your point is less than the cutoff point of that day. Next slide, please. Then expression of interest. When you finish all those, when you're giving LAA, you're supposed to send in your, as as you're filling the forms, you will see where to send your ID, your connectors information. They call your sponsor to make sure that what you feel is the same thing with what you have. They can even go as far as scheduling interview between them and your sponsor to be sure that what you're saying or what you feel is correct. Your ECA, all those ones are still very required, like other provinces. You need your birth certificate that is from local, because that's the one that they are always after. They need it from, what is it called? All these national population, MPC. That's the one you need to submit, not the hospital one. Then your marriage certificate, if you're married, IELTS results, reference letter from your employer, then settlement forms. Next slide, please. If you need to ask any question, please drop it on the group or on the, if you're not on the group, you can still send your email address or your WhatsApp number, so you'll be added to the group. We have over 10 groups on how you can migrate to Canada. We do not collect money, like the owner of the group said. Everything on the group is free. So if you wish to know more about this Manitoba PNP, kindly join the group and ask all the necessary questions there. I cannot talk more on it because of time. You know, data and people are just leaving. So we just make it as short as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Viv. So while you just stay on, I will turn on the material for Alberta so that you can just quickly handle that for another 10 minutes.
Okay.
1 second. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So Alberta, over to you.
Okay. I'm going to be talking also on Alberta PNP, popularly known as AINP. Please, next slide. Alberta is one of the popular provinces in Canada. It's like their oil province. And the way their AINP goes is they pick from the pool. They don't announce they are picking, they just pick randomly. They pick specific NOC, specific CRS, but usually where they were picking, most times admin assistant NOC, that's 1214, is always in their demand. But for a while, before the COVID started, they stopped speaking from the pool. They stopped anything foreign foreign picking, so that they will be able. They didn't give any excuse, but that's the reason. So they have two streams for foreign workers, which is opportunity and express entry. The express entry is when you're invited, when they pick you from the pool. The opportunity stream is when you have a job offer. You can't create your profile in Alberta site if you don't have job offer or if you're not picked from the pool. Things to note: candidates cannot apply directly to Alberta stream. You cannot use a nomination under different AINP. It has to be one of the two streams, or you're going through federal skilled workers overseas. So Those are the ones you can, like when you get direct ITA, you can just choose to migrate to Abata. But if it's for you to just wake up and say, I'm going to Abata without any job offer or without them picking you from the pool, is a no-no. Your documents has to be very genuine. You don't need to forge anything, because once they notice that your documents are forged, you risk 5 years ban. Abata Express entry nomination cannot extend their nomination. Like, if you get the nomination, they cannot transfer. Maybe if for any reason something happens and you say, please, can you transfer my nomination to another EE profile? They cannot do that, unlike SACS and Manitoba that can easily transfer the nomination. They can't do that. If you lose the nomination, you have to start afresh. Selection is strictly by express profile or qualified people that have the NOI sent to them. If you receive NOI, you have to fill the forms and submit. And one good thing is that the application nomination does not take time. Within
Have we lost?
Viv?
Have we lost her?
Yeah. Okay, Edith, you want to continue to complete the stuff? Just like 3
Okay, yes.
slides remaining.
Okay, let me just continue. Thank you, Viv. Okay, so for Abata, just like she was saying, Abata does not really have a system, just like Ontario. They don't really have a system, just like Ontario. So they just send you notification of interest to your EE Express Entry profile, and then you receive it via mail, and then that is when you can now apply. And Abata is one province that at least look out for those that has the CRS of at least 300 and above, unlike Ontario that has to go to like 460, 450 something at the moment. And for you to increase your chances, you have to have a job, not a compulsory, just to increase your chances. You have to have a job offer or work experience in Alberta. You must be a graduate of the post-secondary school institution in Alberta, or maybe in any provinces in Canada. And then you have a relative, like a child, a parent, brother or sister, who is a permanent resident or Canadian citizen living in Alberta. So if you look, you notice that they actually wants to like family unification, or they want you to have a strong tie to Alberta before they can nominate you. Then the Canadian immigration is not for the faint-hearted, but it's worth it. I'll be responding to questions in the chat room, and I see some people asking some questions and asking, oh, is 10 points okay? All that. It is not for the faint-hearted, but when you come over here, you find out that all the stress you went through, everything you went through to get your PR in Canada is actually worth it. The opportunity that Canada provides you is unquantifiable. The opportunities are very enormous, both from healthcare, education, even provincial benefits, even your child benefits. You get so many opportunities in Canada. And then of recent, there's a recent statistics that came out that Canada is the best country in the world at the moment. Canada is the best country in the world. It used to be top 10, top 3, top 5, but for 2020, it was the best in the world. And the society is very sane. The air is there's no pollution. Everything is here. Everything here is under consideration. You have free education up to secondary school level. You can even enjoy free education up to university level because there are a lot of scholarships, tons and tons of scholarships for you to apply. The only thing is I just have to be very strategic about it. The same way we are all strategic about our PR application. You have to be very strategic from the secondary school level. You should start looking at the criteria for the kind of school you want to apply to and the scholarships that are applicable. Then permanent residence is renewable after every 5 years, subject to the terms and conditions. And the terms and condition is that he must be in Canada 3 years. Sorry, 2 years out of the 5 years. So for those of us that will come and do soft landing and run back to Nigeria, let us take note of the timing. So if you land soft land in Canada and run back to Nigeria, please make sure that you don't stay beyond 3 years in Nigeria. In fact, before the 3 years clock, run back to Canada and finish up the next 2 years so that you can renew your PR card. If you don't renew it, if you don't meet the criteria, you can actually, there are other applications that can make them to renew it for you, such as humanitarian and H&C consideration, humanitarian and something consideration for them. But you know, those kind of applications, very slim, they have very slim success rates. So for me, I would not advise you to find yourself in that situation. Make sure you meet the eligibility, that is 2 years out of every 5 years to be able to renew your PR card. And then citizenship is just 3 years, unlike our neighbor here, US, that their citizenship is up to 8 years or 9 years or thereabouts, and even the UK. So yes, citizenship is 3 years. I came here in 2020. I'm waiting for 2022 so that I can be able to apply for my citizenship and have my passport, Canadian passport, and be able to travel the world as much as I can. So it's really, really worth it. Please, next slide, if there is. That's the last one, actually. Okay, thank you very much. Oh. Break a leg. Okay. All right. So while we're preparing to break a leg, thank you very much for that intervention. Edith, and that's what the team spirit that we operate here is about. All right, so very quickly we'll move over to the next presentation that will be anchored by Obi. She's spoken to us about ECA earlier today. So now she's going to be talking to us about the Ontario Provincial Nominee Program. That is the OINP. Like I told you earlier, I came through the OINP sometime. I landed in 2019 April, so I spent two plus years here, and it's been awesome experience so far. So I will put up your presentation very quickly. If you can just start talking.
Okay, my name is Obi. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you very loud and clear.
Okay, so I am Obi. I'll be talking about the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. That's the Ontario Provincial Nomination Program, basically. And for the Ontario program, there are actually lots of streams. There's the French-speaking stream, the Human Capital Priority stream, the Skilled Trades stream. I need to wait for my slide. Can I wait for my slide?
Yeah. Sorry, I have so many slides open, so just trying to close. And my system is also complaining that, oh God, you want to kill me? You have so many things loaded on my head. So 1 second, that will come up now. Okay. Okay, your slide is up.
Okay, so the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, these are basically the categories for nomination: employer job offer category, the human capital category, and the business category. Currently, I'll be talking only on the ones that are still available for submission. That is the French-speaking skilled worker stream, the human capital priority stream, the skilled trades stream, and the entrepreneur stream. for now, I'll focus on the French-speaking skilled worker stream. Okay, this stream is basically from the express entry pool. Like Edith earlier said, for Ontario, there's really no structure. There's no website where you have to create an expression of interest or what they just randomly pick from the pool. There's no particular criteria per se. If they decide to pick French speaking today, they can decide to pick from 400 and above. They can decide to pick 450 tomorrow. But for the French speakers, you must also have a very strong English ability. So it's not only just that you can speak French, you also have to do very well in your English language too. So for the French-speaking skilled workers stream, you must have an existing express entry profile because that's where they'll pick you from. There's nowhere to submit an application. So your express entry profile has to be active and updated. So they go to the express entry profile and pick you out based on your French speaking ability, which means you have to have a TEF results. You must have taken the TEF. And then for them to pick you as a French speaking skilled worker, French must be your first language. You must have selected French as your first language. So for some Nigerians, very few Nigerians who have that. I've only seen like one person who has French as his first language. Every other Nigerian picks French as a second language because we don't really do well in the TEF. So for that, we really need to, for the French speaking category, you need to have French as your first language, then English as your second language, and you must do very well in your French and also do well, at least up to 6 CLB 6 in your English language for them to pick you for that category. And then once you are picked, you have 45 calendar days to submit an application. The application fee is 1,500 CAD, which you can pay via cards. And then you submit your application with the required documents. If your application is deemed to be incomplete, they return your application and refund your money to you. And that means you've missed that opportunity. Then next slide, please. Next slide, please. Hello?
Are you not seeing the next slide?
Okay, I can see it now. So for the human capital priority stream, that's basically the one that gives foreign workers opportunity to be picked off the pool too. That's basically the one most of us qualify for. So to qualify for this, you have to be in the express entry pool. Ontario points are always very high. If federal cuts at 470, then just expect Ontario to cut from 460 and above. They don't go so low. There was a time maybe 2 years ago, last year or 2 years ago, early last year and 2 years ago, they were picking 437 and 430 thereabouts, but recently it's been 460. The last draw was 456 to 467. And basically you must have an existing profile. And then once you receive a notification of interest from Ontario, you can now apply. Next slide, please. Then, so for the human capital priority stream, the requirement is just for you to have an express entry profile, like I said earlier. Then you meet the requirements for FSW, which is basically your language, your ECA, your proof of funds. Those are the basic requirements. Then you have 45 calendar days to also submit an application for the HCPS. Then you are paying 1,500 for your application fee. And you have to submit, I think you have to do a write-up that you intend to stay in Alberta, to live in Alberta. To live in Ontario, sorry. So you have to submit your intention to live in Ontario. It's supposed to be convincing that, yes, if I get this nomination, I'll be staying in Ontario. Next slide, please. There's basically not a lot to say about Ontario anyway, because they'll just pick you off the pool if you qualify. So the basic thing is create your profile, have your ECA, have your IELTS, have your POF, and basically Ontario focuses a lot on IT people. Their last notification of interest was sent to IT NOCs. Now there are specifically like 6 NOCs that they always focus on a lot. Then once in a while, they might do the accounts people, the nurses and all that, but basically their expression of interest is always sent to, the expression of interest is always sent to the IT people. And then your NOC has to be very high for Ontario to pick you. So that's basically it for Ontario. Thank you. There's not a lot to say.
All right. Thank you so much, B, for that very concise presentation on Ontario. So very, very quickly, we'll be looking at the Atlantic Canada nomination. You know, so this thing, you need to make hay while sun shines. When I did my nomination, anything above 400, once you hit 400 and you're in the IT, they pick you. That's Ontario. So once my CRS hit 400, I got a notification to, to come and apply. So this gets tougher every day. Josh, you have Edith's presentation to share?
Yes, I do. Coming up.
All right. So Edith will be taking us on the Atlantic Canada provinces, and for the next 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. So I'll be taking us on the Atlantic Canada Immigration Pilot Program. As an immigration pathway to obtaining a PR in Canada. So when we talk of the Atlantic Canada, when we hear Atlantic Canada, what should come to our mind is 4 provinces. So 4 provinces in Canada make up what we call the Atlantic Canada, mainly because they are very close to the Atlantic Ocean. And those 4 provinces are New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia and Prince Edward's Islands provinces. So these 4 provinces are what we call Atlantic provinces here in Canada. Next slide, please. Okay, good. So let us talk about the Atlantic Immigration Program or pathway. So it's an immigration pathway to Canada, to permanent residents in Canada, and is mainly for skilled foreign workers and international graduates who wants to work and live in any of these provinces I mentioned earlier. It is very, very employer driven, and you must be a recent graduate of a public funded institution in Atlantic Canada or a skilled worker who meets the program requirements. You can be living in Canada temporarily, or you may be living in abroad, and you must have received a job offer from an employer. Okay, so for this Atlantic Canada Pilot Program, one thing we need to note is that these provinces have come together and say, you know what, we want to attract skilled workers to our province, we want to retain hands, we want to retain our graduates. We want to also increase the population in our provinces. So that's why they had to structure this program, structure these pilots, and then kick it, and then make it to kick off. So for the public funded institutions in Atlantic Canada, I purposely put up all the colleges and the universities that apply, that are public funded institutions that meets the program requirements. So why I did that is because the FSW is getting difficult, and I know that so many people are looking at study pathways. So if you're looking at study pathways, these colleges and universities I put up here should form your decision, should be among things to consider before you make a decision to study in Canada. You should think of Memorial University of Newfoundland, because it's one of the cheapest universities we have here in Canada. You should think of Holland College in Prince Edward Island, because I know that province also keep back their graduates. So provinces are looking for ways they can retain hands, because they find out that if an international skilled worker is coming to Canada, the first thing that comes to their mind is Ontario, Alberta, Saskatchewan. So these are the
the most popular provinces that someone abroad, when the person steps into Canada, would like to settle. So these 4 provinces are maybe what may not come to their mind. So these provinces are looking for ways to attract skilled workers, and believe you me, they are really getting traction in that regards. Next slide, please. Okay, so under these pilots, we have 3 programs. So under this pilot, we have the Atlantic International Graduate Program, we have the Atlantic High Skilled Program, and we have the Atlantic Intermediate Skilled Program. The good news with this pilot is that it's not restricted to only NOC O, A, and B. There's an additional one, which is NOC-C, that if you go through the federal skilled worker program or the Canadian Experience class, it must be NOC-O, A, or B. But this time around, these provinces are also including NOC-C to their requirements, depending on the program you apply, depending on the particular program you apply. So let's briefly talk about, so what I did is to bring out only the unique feature in each of these programs. So for example, for Atlantic International Graduate Program, must have graduated from any of the public funded Atlantic schools, which I mentioned earlier. You must have lived there at least 16 months in the 2 years before getting your degree. And your work experience is required, and work experience is not required for international graduates hired through the Atlantic Immigration Pilots, meaning that if you evaluate your international degrees through any of the ECA organizations, then you can and then you are hired through the Atlantic Immigration Pilot. There's no work experience that is required, which is a good deal. Now, for the Atlantic High Skilled Program, you must at least have a high school education and at least 1 year experience in NOC type 0 or type level A or B. What it simply means is that when they say at least a high school education, it's like our WAEC and NECO in Nigeria, but it doesn't mean that you should treat yourself to a high school. Remember, they said at least. So if you have, you have higher chances when you climb higher. Let's say you have your BSc, your MSc, your PhD and all that, and then you have 1 year experience in at least NOC type 0 or skill level A or B. I'm sure that most of us are very familiar with this NOC because we have other presenters that talked about NOCs earlier on. That's why I did not bother myself to go deep down in NOC. NOC simply means National Occupation Classification. So in this Canada, all occupations have a code here in this Canada. If you're a cleaner, there's a code. If you're a banker, depending on the area in banking, you have a code. If you're a social worker, you have a code. So that is what we mean by NOC, National Occupation Classification Code. So depending on your skill level, they are also categorized into skill type 0, which is a managerial class, skill level A, which is a professional, and then level B, which is technical. Level C is like, I think all these cleaners, fuel station attendants and all that. Now let's talk about the Atlantic. No, sorry, go back to the previous slide. To the Atlantic Intermediate Skilled Program. So that is where we have the NOC level C. C minimum requirements, high school education, and a job experience that requires a high school education or job specific training, at least in NOC level C. So let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so remember I mentioned that it is employer driven, so you must have a job offer. So so for the job offer, you must make sure that the employer is a designated one in any of the Atlantic Canada. And then you must make sure that the employer meets the employment requirements. So the employer already knows what to do, but the good news is that the job offer doesn't need to be in the same field as other jobs you have had in your past. And you must qualify for any of the 3 programs I mentioned earlier, and then the job offer must be signed. Remember, a job offer is not yet a contract until it is signed. So it must be signed. That is a mistake some candidates make. And then once you apply for this, you can be eligible for, your spouse can be eligible for an open work permit. Even when your application is still, you just tender the application. Once you submit a PR application here in Canada, you are eligible for a work permit, for an open work permit, pending the time a decision is made on your PR application. Next slide, please. Okay, so the document required, it's just like the normal document for PR application, your English test, your education, and if schooled abroad, you must obtain an ECA, your proof of fund. Other documents specific to the applicable program. What do I mean? So depending on the program you are applying for, you have application forms for each of the programs. So if you're interested in any of the program, you now have to do more research to narrow down the documents you need to get specific to any of the applicable program. You must have a settlement plan. Your designated employer can help you with a settlement plan, or a settlement service provider can help you with a settlement plan. A settlement plan basically means, okay, you know what, this is my plan. I want to settle in this part of the town. My children can go to school. So you can even sit down, research that province, or research that province or the town you want to settle in, and then know the different amenities you can get from there, and put up a settlement plan. Then you can get your certificate of endorsement. So this certificate of endorsement, liken it to a provincial nomination. Just liken it is not a provincial nomination, but just liken it to a provincial nomination, meaning that once your job offer is endorsed, then they will issue you a certificate. Your employer handles this process, but you must confirm from him or her. Next slide, please. Okay, so to submit your application for PR, this kind of application is paper-based actually, and you have to meet all the requirements of a PR application, such as your medicals, that is valid for 1 year, your biometrics, $85 for one and $170 for a family, 2 or more in a family, and then you must obtain your police reports. The fees are the same with the fees of permanent residence, which is $825 for application fee, and right of permanent resident fee of $500. Your dependent child does not need to pay for right of permanent resident fee, but can just pay an application fee of $225. It used to be $150. When I did my application, I paid $150 for each of my children. And this is the address to send your paper application to. And once you do that, they will review it and send you an acknowledgement of receipts. The same way we receive an AOR for our online-based application. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is it. But since I have 1 minute, I want to mention something, please. On February 13, 2021, on a Saturday like this, the whole Canada woke up to a surprise. We all thought it was a scam. It was a glitch in the system until our immigration minister tweeted that it is not a glitch, but actually that is what they did. So what happened? The lowest CRS score was 75. 75. You heard me right. 75. It means that no candidates. There's no, if you fill your profile, there's no how you can get a 75 as your lowest CRS, having met your language test and your ECA and all that. So it simply means that all candidates for that program in the pool were invited. Over 27,000 candidates, CEC, Canadian Experience Class candidates, were invited. This is a huge miracle, but this miracle only happened to those that are prepared. So I encourage every one of us, if you have decided to come to Canada, if you have made that decision, make sure you obtain your IELTS, make sure you obtain your ECA, and then you get your passport and create a profile. It is only when you are in the pool that such miracle can meet you. If you are not in the pool, that miracle cannot meet you. Since January 1 to this date, not received any round. Please mute your mic, please. We've not gotten any round for labor skilled worker. It means that it simply means that IRCC is preparing grant for you, and in the summer, something may happen in the summer. Please get your profile up and running. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Wow, very timely. That is the Canadian way. Edith is now a full Canadian. Thank you so much for that timely presentation. So be prepared. You don't know what will happen tomorrow. So very shortly, we'll be going into our breakout room. But before we go into the breakout room, I just want to also have the last presentation we have for today. Then what we have remaining will just be discussion, breakout rooms, and then we will end it for today. We know your time has been very valuable, and I'm sure you also have gotten some valuable information. So Josh, you have Kolilere's presentation. So he's talking, Kola Ole Olalere, we'll call him Kolilere, will be talking to us about ITA, POF, and PPR. So these are the, if you are at this level, then you are more, your leg is already on the shore of Canada. So Kolilere, over to you.
Hello, thank you once again, Prof. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay, all right. So if you are at this stage, just like Prof said, if you are at this stage of your application, that means you already have a 3/4 leg in Canada. So this is a very huge step. So all your labors are already kind of yielding fruit at this stage. So congratulations. Can you go to the next slide, please? All right. So what to do? What am I going to do in this presentation? So we talk about what ITA really is, the documents you need to submit after you got ITA, the expiration date of your ITA, submission and acknowledgement of your application. We also going to talk about the proof of fund. What exactly is proof of fund, and what we call the PPR, which I call the COCO master. Next slide, please. So like I said, if you're at this stage of your application, it's a huge congratulations to you. It's one very stage that is very important to everybody, that everybody's also all looking towards too. All the way from your high ELTS, from your ECA, from getting your reference letter, from doing all the stuff you've done, all the prerequisites. This is what is the most important, your ITA. And so when you get this in your mail, please, in as much as it's a very important email, it's also a very dangerous one as well. So you have to be very careful on how you work on it. So it simply states that you have been selected to submit a full application for your permanent resident, for your permanent residence application to Canada. It contains the breakdown of your express entry CRS score. And they're also going to tell you that if your situation changes, you might have to decline it. And what are the reasons? Why do you have to decline your ITA? So sometimes if you are not prepared to submit all the required documentations, probably you don't have your IELTS certificate. You've not obtained your IELTS certificate, you only have the result. Probably you've only checked the result online, you don't have the original certificate and you couldn't get it until after 60 days. You can't submit your result, your ITA without that. Probably your proof of fund is not complete, you have to decline your ITA. If your situation changes, probably you got married, you have to recalculate your ICRS, and if your CRS drops below the one that you were selected based on, you have to decline your ITA. So, yeah. So one important thing about ITA recently is that the day you got your ITA, your age is locked. Previously, in the past probably 4 or 5 years, if I'm correct, if you get ITA today, your age still is not locked. But recently now, once you get your ITA, even after if you celebrate another birthday afterward, your age is automatically locked. So you don't have to worry about your age. However, excuse me, your high ELTS score must be valid before you submit your application. If your IELTS score kind of probably get expired before the submission of your application, I'm very sorry, you can't submit. My presentation is based on information available on the IRCC website as at yesterday. So whatever I tell you here is valid as at yesterday. It might not be today, but whatever I'm telling you right now is valid as at yesterday. Your age is locked at ITA, but your IELTS result is not locked. You have to make sure you write another one. So, and the validity of your IELTS starts is 60 days, 60 calendar days. So make sure as much as possible, try to gather all the necessary information all the necessary documents you need to submit along with the ITA. And please don't wait for the ITA. Don't wait to get the ITA before you start gathering all these documents, because document gathering is one very important stage at this on this train as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, so what are the documents you need to submit with your ITA? First and foremost, all documents that are not in English must be translated. That's mandatory. For all applicants, it is required of you to submit a medical examination result, even if the applicant is non-accompanying. So, for instance, if you are married with children and you decide not to, and your husband decide not to go with you guys, so irrespective, your husband still needs to do medicals with you guys. It's mandatory because along the line, you might want to introduce your husband to the application, or you want to introduce one of the children to the application. So it's mandatory for everyone to have their medical, to have their medical examination done. So police certificate, yeah, this is also mandatory for anybody that is older than 18 years old on the application, both accompanying and non-accompanying. So, and the police certificate is actually, it depends on your personal history, your travel address, and your current country of residence. So for instance, if you're a Nigerian and you're living in Nigeria, you definitely need a police certificate from Nigeria, and it must be valid. You must have been it must have been obtained 6 months before you submit your application. So if you've resided in another country for 6 months or more in a row, you are required, in the last 10 years, you are required to submit a police report of that from that country. So for instance, if you stayed in the UK probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and you've now returned to the UK since then, you must make sure you obtain, even if you've obtained the police certificate 2 years ago, you can still submit the police report as long as you've not returned to the UK after you got the police certificate. So that's very important. So, and also the original copy of your police certificate must be scanned and submitted online along with your supporting documents, please. And like I said, anybody that is older than 18 years old need to submit this police report. And if you've resided in Canada in the past, you don't have to submit a police report for Canada because they will definitely get it by themselves. Next slide, please. So yeah, you also need to submit a valid biodata page of the passport for everybody on the application. And just the reason why you're submitting this is just to confirm your identity, and your passport page must be legible and must be valid for at least 6 months. Please don't submit a passport that is less than 6 months to expiration, please. Proof of work experience. This is a very, very important one. A lot of people applications got rejected because of this simple mistake. Make sure your proof of work experience, that's the letter you got from your employer. Make sure it's the job description on it conforms with what is on the NOC for that job role you are applying for. Forget about the fact that you are a banker in Nigeria, you're an accountant, and these are the things you do in your company. It doesn't matter to them. Make sure whatever you're doing, whatever that is included on your reference letter, is what you have. No one will penalize you for lifting the word for word. No one will penalize you for paraphrasing it. But you are going to be penalized if you don't heed to this advice, please. So if you decide to use the work, probably the job roles assigned to you by your office, you decide not to use the one on the NOC website, please, your application can be rejected, and this is going to be a very costly mistake for you. So please make sure you check the job rules, the job description on the NOC before you get your letter from your employer. Because sometimes some employers, it can be very difficult to get, the job rules like you want for the application from some of the employers. They might not want to give it to you that way, but try as much as possible to at least try your best to get it at least as close as possible to what you have on the NOC website. And for people and the job reference must be on the company's letterhead. It must be signed and dated. I'm sure people always wonder, a lot of people always ask me, why do I normally emphasize signed and dated? One of my applications in the past, probably like 4 years ago, was actually rejected because of the fact that the reference letter from the company wasn't signed. And this is very true. After 8 months of waiting, the application was returned to me because the reference letter wasn't signed. So please make sure the reference letter is dated, signed. Let the name of the person that wrote the letter, let it be clear, and let the title of the person, if possible, the phone number and the email of the person must also be on the letter. So if you are a self-employed person make sure you submit your article of incorporation, your tax document for the past 5 years, if possible. And you can also try and get as much references from your previous, from your current and previous, customers, just to show that, okay, these are the services you've rendered or you've provided to them in the past. So, and who needs to submit a proof of work reference? So if you are the principal applicant, this is mandatory for you. You have to submit a work reference from your employer. And if you are a spouse and you claim work experience in Canada, you also have to provide evidence of your work experience in Canada. Well, sometimes some people like to include it for their wife or their spouse, even if it's not required. But I would advise people as much as possible not to include anything that is not required. It doesn't add anything to your application. If you had any document that is not required, it doesn't mean because you are being honest, you are being transparent, that will make them to kind of process your application or give you a free hand. No, it doesn't matter. Give them what they want. Don't do more than that. Next slide, please. Okay, and another important document that you need to submit is a copy of the birth certificate. This is just to validate the children's relationship with their parents. And also some applicants always ask this question: do I need to submit my birth certificate when I'm applying? As a principal applicant and the spouse, if you're not claiming point, and I repeat, if you're not claiming point for sibling in Canada, you don't have to put your birth certificate or your what do they call it in NCC, your declaration of age, or what do they call it? Can someone remind me? Hello?
NPC.
Yeah, they call it one proof of age or something like that. I've forgotten the name.
Attestation of age.
Attestation of age.
Attestation of age. Yeah, thank you very much. Attestation of age. You don't have to submit that if you are not claiming point for sibling. But if you are, definitely you have to submit it. So all dependent children on the application, accompanying or non-accompanying, must submit the birth certificate. So proof of studies, we all know this. If you are claiming point for educational credential, educational qualification, you must submit the proof. And what is the proof? You must submit your ECA and a scanned copy of all your educational credentials, either OND or HND, anything that is included on your ECA, you must submit a copy of that, including that of you and your wife. Only if your wife contributed to the to the CRS score. If your wife doesn't, or if your spouse doesn't, you don't have to include it in your application. The next point, the next document is a provincial nomination certificate. Yes, all provinces, they send a copy of your provincial nomination to IRCC, but it's still your responsibility to make sure that it is included in your application. If you don't include it in your application, there is every tendency that your application will fail the completeness check and they will return it. And you know what that means? If your application is returned, that might be the last chance for you to be drawn. We all know that recently they've not been drawing for non-program specific like skill workouts overseas now. The last draw was 468. So you don't want to be in a situation whereby they will return your application because of a very costly mistake made on your part. So please let us be careful. Let us make sure that we submit all these documents. If there is no placeholder for you to submit the nomination certificate, which is the case, there is no placeholder for you to submit your nomination certificate, please merge it with other documents. You can merge it with any document and include it in your LOE. Okay, this is the list of documents I included. This is where I match these two. Let them see the list of your documents that you're uploading to them. Just do a note and send it to them. Letter of employment offer. If you are claiming points for employment, please make sure you include the employment offer letter in your application. IELTS and French certificate. Yeah, this is also mandatory. If you claiming points for IELTS and French, please make sure you don't forget to include your certificate, your certificates, your results certificate on the application. Evidence of marriage, divorce, common law union. This is only, excuse me. Okay, I'm presenting Shemilore. Sorry about that. Evidence of marriage is just to validate your marital status, probably divorced or non-divorced. So adoption certificate and death certificate. Yeah, if you have a child on the application or children on the application that are adopted, you need to provide adoption certificates for them. This is just to validate their relationship with you. Death certificate. So if you have you are a spouse and you lost your spouse, you lost your spouse, and the name of your children, the name of your children carries the name of the spouse that is already dead. So please and please, you need to submit a proof of death certificate for that person, just to show the relationship between those children and their parent and their dad or their mom. They also have to include that death certificate on the application. Please don't forget to do that, please. So if you also have a proof of relative in Canada, yeah, if you are claiming point for sibling in Canada, you must also submit document relating to this. And what are the documents you need to submit? Utility bills will go a long way. Proof of work experience, job will go a long way. Their PR card, which is their status in Canada, or probably if they're a citizen already, it will go a long way. Utility bills, anything that they can use to support your application. Don't let them just submit it. And also their birth certificate, just to show the correlation, just to show the connection between you and them. They also need to submit their own birth certificate as well. So digital photo, yeah, this is very mandatory. And there is a specific requirement for it on the IRC's website. Everybody on the application must submit a photo. Their photos for for the application. Is a scanned copy of it anyways. So everybody must upload the scanned copy of their picture with the application, and the picture must be less than 6 months. So please let's confirm. Let's make sure we adhere to the requirement as specified on the IRC's website. Evidence of name change. So if you are a lady and you claim that you changed your name during the course while filling the application, you must provide evidence of name change. This could be in form of probably newspaper publication. It could be in form of your marriage certificate. That will go a long way. That's the two things that you need to show evidence of your change of name. Next on the slide, please.
Yeah, you have 2 minutes left. So.
Okay, no problem. Proof of fund. Proof of fund is a very important discussion for your application. And what does this really mean? It's mandatory for all applications based on your family size, and it is not applicable to applicants with job offer. So preferably, if you want to show evidence of your proof of fund, make sure you provide. It's preferable to provide a bank statement which is maybe like 3 months to 6 month bank statement would be very good. But if you are someone that cannot submit your bank statement because you don't want them to show, you don't want them seeing probably some loans coming out of your account, because loans will be taken out from your balance. So you don't want them to see that. You can just submit investment accounts. What are investment account? Mutual fund certificate, fixed deposit certificate, treasury bills. It goes a long way. Give deed. Someone asked on the group that is give deed allowed. There is no place on IRCC website that says you can collect give deed. However, at the discretion of the officer, we've seen people use it. I use it as well. So it's been acceptable. Is acceptable as at the moment, but I don't want us to kind of put more emphasis on it, because the money has to be yours anyway. So getting a gift from people, especially from your sibling, is the best. But I won't like to emphasize on this, but it is acceptable, at least to some extent. And the letter from the bank or the financial institution must be on the bank letterhead. It must be dated, signed, and must be addressed. It must have the appropriate address, emails, and telephone number, or probably the branch where the letter is being generated from. So non-accompanying spouse and dependent children must also be included. So POF doesn't mean because your husband is not following you to Canada, you're not going to include his own, in the proof of fund. You're not going to consider him as part of the proof of fund. No, everybody, both accompanying and non-accompanying, must be considered on the proof of fund. And the proof of fund must be readily available. What does it mean? The proof of fund must not be in equity, maybe like shares certificate, maybe like Bitcoin, Doge. No, it must be raw cash invested or sitting in your bank account, liquid. It must be unencumbered and must be readily available. Readily available means you can withdraw your money anytime. Shares cannot be withdrawn anytime. Pension cannot be withdrawn anytime. All this cannot be withdrawn anytime. Make sure your money is readily available. And this proof of fund is usually updated every year. Next slide, please. So you must also make sure that you look into this before you submit your application. You can see the family size, what is required of you, what is required by your family size. For a family size of 4, you know that you need 9.1 million naira. I used the 380 naira to Canadian dollars conversion. So this is what you need to pay this is what you need to keep in your account before you submit your application. At least make sure you have this in your application and in your account before you submit your application. This is very, very important. Next slide, please. And before you submit your application, next slide, please. There is a submission fee that you need to pay for your application. Next slide, please. Yeah, there's a submission fee you need to pay for your application. For every adult on the application, it costs 825, and that's for the processing fee. For the right of permanent resident fee, it costs 500 per adult. For any child on the application that is less than 22 years, it costs 225 Canadian dollars. And this application, this must be paid before the application can be submitted. However, you can decide not to pay the RPR, the right of permanent resident fee before, at the point of submission. Is not mandatory, but if you have the money, it's always advisable to pay everything upfront before you submit your application. So completeness check. What do you mean by completeness check? After submitting your application, you must pay your cost recovery fee, which is the application fee. All your documents must be complete, and the electronic form must be filled accordingly. If all these are checked properly, if all these are correctly submitted, your application will pass the completeness check. That doesn't mean your application will scale through to PR. Can I go to the next slide, please? And this is the last stage of the application. We call it passport ready, PPR. Well, I don't want to talk much about this. I only have a picture. You should be looking out for this email in your email account every morning once you have applied. So this will come in form of an email, or it can come in form of a notification in your Express Entry profile that you are required to submit your passport for visa. So what are the documents? You need some document to submit along with your passport, and this instruction, there's an instruction in the letter already that will tell you what you need to submit along with your application. So if you are at this stage of your application, is a good news. But mind you, because you have PPR doesn't mean you're going to enter Canada. You still have to satisfy the border agent at the point of entry. So make sure your status remain the same, your story remain the same, your status remain the same. Nothing has changed on your application. If something changes on your application before you come into Canada, you must let them know. If you have a baby, you must have a baby, or you got married, you must let them know, because you might need to add such person to your application. Please and please, if you are at this stage of the application, is a very good news. That means God has really crowned your effort up to this stage. And I can assure you, if you are starting this application, if you are starting this journey today, it might take a while for you to get to this stage, but I can assure you it's something that you can reach. All you need to do is just to start today. So like I always say, and I always end this way, Canada is for everybody. It depends on if you want it. If you want it, you can get it. So get started today. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, and thank you for listening to us. We really appreciate you. Without you, we can't be here. And please, everything you've learned today, please make sure you make an informed decision. Wife, call your husband. Husband, call your wife. Get on board. You need yourself to be on this journey together, because I don't think one person can do it. So thank you very much. Thanks to the organizers. Thank everybody. And I will sign out from here. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll quickly go into the breakout room now. That will be the last agenda, item for the day. So in the next 10 minutes, we would round up. So you will see option to join a breakout room of your choice. Just click, and then you go into the breakout room. So all the rooms are opening now for the next 10 minutes. I know. In fact, have you noted?
Hello?
Hi.
Are we on breakout room?
No, it didn't threw us out.
Oh, it threw us out.
I think some people, I don't know. I'm just wondering because I was in before and all of a sudden I'm out.
Let's wait now. So, who am I talking to? Obi, Abi?
Yes.
It's only me and you that we are here.
I'm here too.
Okay. Somebody is just telling me something now about the Atlantic Province caregiver route. So I'm going to ask her very well to give me the details. She said we're going to do some few things. Sorry, who is saying I'm here?
Did you see any link to join a breakout room of your choice?
Yes.
I know.
I didn't see.
He came up and I joined IELTS ECA and then all of a sudden I'm out.
What's your name?
Abelnama.
Where are we supposed to see the link?
It should pop up on your screen.
It popped up on the screen, yeah. But I can't see it again.
Oh, I didn't see any screen. No. So we are here enjoying our own breakout room here.
But you are co-host now. You should see breakout room as one of your options.
Where?
I not see any breakout room. No. I only saw broadcast to all message, close
Prof,
all.
I didn't see it too.
Can't see anything now.
We didn't see anything. All I saw
I
is
now.
we have plenty 58 unassigned.
So can you assign?
I don't know how to assign. I'm only seeing
Okay, if you click on the breakout rooms where you're seeing 56 and all these unassigned.
You see the people.
You cannot assign, yes, you can assign.
You can assign them. If they are not, maybe they don't know how to go to the rooms.
Move to, I don't even know where I want to put them.
General
put them in general.
Where is general?
Do from the bottom. People are going into their various rooms.
Oh.
It's because Mama don't join with.
If I leave the breakout room, won't I go back to the
Leave room? You can't leave.
I can't leave. I didn't see option of leave.
Yeah,